To save my father who was suffering from leukemia, I terminated my 5-month pregnancy and donated my bone marrow, but I later discovered, quite by accident, that my brother was actually a successful match as well. Everyone had been lying to me then. I got a second chance at life, the day I was reborn to donate bone marrow. 1. I was 5 months pregnant when my father was diagnosed with leukemia. Out of our entire family, I was the only one who was a match. My mother knelt on the ground and begged me. "Nya, you can have more children in the future, but you only have one father." My brother called several times. "Sister, you haven't even met the child. How can you have any feelings for it? But Dad has raised you for over 20 years. After days of crying and contemplation, I still decided to give up the child and save my father's life. Since this child was hard to come by, my husband naturally disagreed, feeling guilty. I took the initiative to divorce him then. Without hesitation, I went to the hospital. My father was saved, however. After a late-term abortion and donating bone marrow, my health continued to deteriorate. In the end, I couldn't even handle the most basic tasks. I had no choice but to quit my job, stay at my parents' house, and do the laundry and cooking for my parents and my brother's family every day, until one day, I found a matching report in the drawer with my brother Phaeton's name on it. The conclusion was, the match was successful. They had been lying to me all along. My brother could have donated, but instead, they made me lose my child, get divorced, and live a miserable life. I was holding the report, intending to confront my mother, when I accidentally stepped off the edge. I fell down the stairs, but I didn't die. I've been reborn. In a daze, the sharp scent of medical alcohol hit me, and I jolted awake. I looked around at the stark white surroundings, a painfully familiar scene. I was in the hospital, at my father's bedside. I looked down at my slightly rounded belly and nearly burst into tears. My baby was still there. Good. I've been reborn before the donation. This time, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to protect what's mine. My mother, Magda, was pacing around the hospital room with the compatibility report, shouting over and over, "Old man, you're saved. I knew our girl would be a match for you." My father lay in the hospital bed, his face slightly pale. Yet a gleam of vitality appeared in his expression as he nodded in satisfaction. In the blink of an eye, my mother was right in front of me, gesticulating wildly. "My girl, you're the only one in the whole family who's a match. You're our lucky star. Let's get the doctor to take your bone marrow right away and save your father," she said excitedly, the flesh around her cheekbones twitching. I glanced at the report with indifference. Bianca, a perfect match. Looking back now, the whole thing seems like a cruel joke. I used to think my mother had no choice but to pick her husband over her grandson. That's perfectly understandable, just like how I, too, reluctantly sided with my father over my own child. But now, I'm done. I stared coldly into my mother's eyes and said, "But, Mom, I'm pregnant. Donating marrow would require an abortion. Here, feel your grandchild. What you're asking me to do is kill it." I grabbed Magda's hand and pressed it against my stomach. She flinched, startled. "What are you doing?" "I'm not asking you to kill anyone. I'm asking you to save someone, honey. You can have another child later, but your dad, you only have one father." She was on the verge of an emotional breakdown, and as she spoke, she began to wail. "It's the same old argument, and I find it quite ridiculous, but Dad doesn't only have me as a child. Shouldn't we take a look at my brother's report?" "What did you say?" My mother's face turned pale. Phaeton already went through the matching process, and it didn't match. "You know that, really? Let me see the report then," I persisted. "What do you mean?" My mother's eyes widened. My frail father, lying in bed, struggled to prop himself up and shouted at me, "If you don't want to donate, get out." "Fine, I'll leave." I patted my stomach, supported my lower back, and walked out of the ward with my head held high behind me. My mother's curses rang out. "You shameless wretch, I always knew you couldn't be trusted, too." I hailed a cab and went straight to my parents' house. My parents were at the hospital, and my brother was at work. The house was completely empty. Relying on my memory, I found my brother's tissue typing report in the study desk drawer. Seeing the truth laid bare once more, a wave of bitter hurt welled up inside me. These are my wonderful parents and brother. I quickly folded the evidence and put it in my bag. My brother's call arrived as expected. Right off the bat, he put on a show. "Sister, I hear you left Mom and Dad behind and went off alone. Do you know how Mom couldn't even find the payment window by herself? How could you be so at ease?" After letting him finish his long-winded speech, I finally asked, "And what about you? How many times have you visited since Dad got sick?" "I have to work," he snapped, sounding flustered and defensive. He landed a government job a couple of years ago. In my mom's words, it brought honor to the family, and he was the center of attention for a while, since our father fell ill. He has never spent a single night at the hospital. All the registration, bill payments, and picking up medication. I've been the one handling everything. I have to work too, and working in a public institution isn't that easy, is it? I stopped indulging him. All right, I'll make time to visit Dad. Phaeton turned to talk about the matching, but I just found out that you're a match. You can't just stand by and watch someone die. Phaeton, you know, I'm 5 months pregnant. The baby might not make it. I pretended to circle around the topic. With him, Phaeton was furious. Sister, a 5-month-old fetus is just a lump of flesh. You haven't even met it yet, so where's the emotion? Don't get carried away. Dad raised you for over 20 years. You should have some conscience. I pretended to be wronged and said, let me think about it carefully. Think. What's there to think about? If I were a match, I would have donated already. Is there even anything to think about? Fortunately, it was just a phone call, not a video call, or Phaeton would have seen the smile I couldn't suppress. Is that so? I smiled and sent him a photo of his matching report. Then I'll fulfill your wish. I hung up the phone, feeling immensely relieved. Then I hurried back to my own home. At this time, my husband Jasper was probably still sulking at home. When my father was first diagnosed with the illness, my mom urged everyone she knew to get tested, not sparing even my aunts and uncles. Even Jasper, who had no blood relation to us, went. In the end, my mom said disappointedly that none of them matched. I was the only one left in the family who hadn't been tested, and my mom wanted me to try last. Even the usually mild-tempered Jasper got angry. Mom, why does Bianca need a matching test if she's pregnant, even if it matches? What then? My mother didn't even glance at him, just kept crying in front of me. Nia, just go and try. It's highly unlikely to match, so don't worry about anything else. But this is about your sincerity. Do you want your father to die with regrets? I wavered. Jasper stared at me with red eyes. Bianca, you need to think carefully. This child came with so much difficulty. Of course I know. My fallopian tubes are a bit blocked. After years of marriage, we still haven't conceived. With us approaching 30, everyone is getting anxious. Whenever my in-laws had any complaints, Jasper would always cover for me with a laugh and change the subject when they finally pushed too hard. He even claimed he had a medical condition and was still undergoing treatment. That shut my in-laws up for good. They never brought up the topic of children in front of us again, but in a happy twist of fate, free from the pressure to have kids, we unexpectedly got pregnant this year. Even the doctors we've been seeing for years were happy for us. I cried and asked my mom, Mom, can we wait a little longer? Just 5 more months, until after I give birth, then I'll go. My mom's face turned cold. What do you think? Given your dad's condition, we can't even wait 2 months, now. We're just asking you to get tested, and you're scared out of your wits. How could we have a daughter like you? Either you come with me now, or you're an ungrateful daughter, and don't ever set foot in our Joe family home again. In her previous life, she dragged me to the hospital without any explanation. Jasper sighed helplessly. In the end, our marriage hit a dead end. I thought my family would treat me well after I returned to my parents' home. But I was too naive. My family became unhappy, thinking I wasn't earning money and just freeloading. From then on, they stopped being nice to me. My mom said, why didn't you ask for more money when you divorced? Who stays at their parents' house after a divorce? My brother complained too. My girlfriend is coming to stay soon. Sis, you should really rent a place and move out. My father, who took one of my kidneys, chimed in mockingly. I only have 1 kidney too, but I'm not as delicate as you. Ha, so much for my wonderful family. 3, so. The moment Jasper saw me, his eyes were filled with utter shock. He even stammered, Bianca, you're back. Weren't you supposed to stay at the hospital to look after your dad? Why can't I come back? I'm pregnant and exhausted too. You know, let Phaeton and my mom handle it. My nonchalant attitude seemed absolutely unbelievable to Jasper. He'd told me hundreds of times, but I still diligently kept running to the hospital. You really should start taking better care of yourself, he said. Seeing me finally give up, Jasper was secretly thrilled. I ventured cautiously, Honey, I need to tell you something. Promise you won't get mad. He nodded. I then told him about how I had successfully matched and my mom had forced me to donate bone marrow. His jaw dropped. Only after I repeatedly assured him that I would never give up on our child did Jasper relax. He gently hugged me. Honey, I'm so touched that you made such a difficult choice. I will mobilize all my social connections to help find a suitable hematopoietic stem cell for Dad. I rolled my eyes. Actually, they already found it. I pulled Phaeton's compatibility report from my bag and slammed it down on the table. Jasper glanced at it and asked me in disbelief, This report is dated September 28th. The results were ready last week. Yeah, that's right. Yep, my parents have known the results for ages. Why would they still make you go for the matching test? Jasper's voice trembled slightly. I lounged nonchalantly on the couch, munching on cherries, and said, in short, they couldn't bear to let Phaeton donate, so they turned their attention to me, even willing to make me abort the baby. Jasper was furious, and if I hadn't stopped him, he would probably have stormed into the hospital to argue by now. Are they even human? Jasper's voice even cracked with emotion. I spat out the pit and said earnestly, honestly, they don't even seem human anymore. But honey, since they had this intention from the start, I don't think they'll just let it go. You need to stick close and protect me these next few days. As long as I'm here, no one will lay a finger on you or the baby. Just as I expected, my mother's calls kept coming in, one after another, for some peace and quiet. I just put my phone on silent. They sent several voice messages in a row, each nearly a minute long. I couldn't even be bothered to listen to them. To focus on my pregnancy, I even took time off work. I'm staying home and keeping to myself, determined to bring this baby safely into the world on this weekend. The sun was just right, and I went downstairs for a walk with Jasper's support. Then my mom blocked my way. After a few days without seeing her, she looked disheveled, her eyes bloodshot. When she saw me, she rushed straight towards me like a hungry wolf. Bianca, what exactly do you want? Jasper quickly shifted his body to stand between us. Afraid that I might get hurt. What do you mean? What's going on? I asked her, tilting my chin up. Are you really going to stand by and watch him die? That's your own father. Her voice rose an octave, and people around us turned to look, eager for some drama. I immediately called her out. Mom, don't lie to me. Phaeton is also a match. Just go ask him. My mother became even more furious. I see you not only want your father dead, but you also want our Zhou family to be ruined. This accusation is way too much. I'm a bit stunned myself, seeing this. My mother immediately knelt down on the ground. I frowned. What are you doing? So many people are watching. She paid no heed and immediately began kowtowing to me on the gravel path. Her voice grew even louder. My dear daughter, I'm begging you, please save your father. If he dies, I won't be able to go on living either. For a few elderly women, who were watching their grandchildren downstairs in the residential compound, were burning with curiosity and eager to come over for a closer look. My mother's sobbing intensified, a faint trace of blood visible on her forehead. She's really going all out with this performance, Jasper, and I took a few steps back, unwilling to play along with her little act. She immediately sprang up, grabbed my hand, and shouted, "You're not going anywhere. Everyone, come and see. This woman's own father is lying in the hospital, waiting for her to save him. And what does she do? She hides here, completely indifferent." The old ladies immediately took on the role of justice warriors, pointing fingers at me. Little girl, your mother even kowtowed to you. This, even heaven can't stand it. She looks so pretty, but how could her heart be so wicked? You're pregnant. You should do good deeds for the sake of the child in your womb. How can you not save your own parents? The gossipy old ladies kept talking, and seeing that some people were on her side, my mom felt even more confident, but I wasn't afraid, calmly asking the surrounding aunties. My mom wants me to abort the baby to save someone. If it were your daughter-in-law, would you be willing? Aunt Zhang, I see your daughter-in-law is pregnant with her second child too. If your in-laws came asking for help, would you be willing? I caught a spokesperson and asked her. Aunt Zhang fled in panic. Are you crazy? Why curse our family? Jasper's attitude toward his mother was now filled with resentment. What's even more despicable is that her own son could have donated, but she insisted on her daughter aborting a life to save someone. The other onlookers also lost interest and gradually left. My mother sighed and pleaded, Phaeton, he has a girlfriend, the daughter of a leader. We had agreed that he would bring her home this year to meet us. The girl's family doesn't mind your father's illness, so it seemed like such a good match. But when they heard that Phaeton was going to donate bone marrow to your father, they refused to marry into the family, fearing it would harm his health. The moment the words harm his health left my mother's mouth, she felt regret. I smiled at her and said, then you're not afraid it will harm my health? She said guiltily, that's just their ignorance. The doctors have said it's perfectly fine. I calmly retorted to her, the doctor only said that young and strong people won't have much trouble, but I'm pregnant. Apart from that, a late-term abortion is very harmful to the body. Jasper also stepped forward and said, Mom, even Phaeton's girlfriend doesn't want to go, so I certainly don't want my wife to go either. Good heavens, they're not even married yet. I can't ruin your brother's lifelong happiness. She wiped her tears and snot, continuing, you two are married. You're a family now. Your father-in-law is your father. What more could you be unhappy about? Then are you not afraid that Jasper and I will get divorced? What about my lifelong happiness? I bluntly asked her. She remained silent for a long time. We were about to turn and leave, but to our surprise, my mother still wasn't willing to give up. But how can we survive with both men in the family injured, and our Please help the Joe family. You were always so fond of your younger brother when you were little. My mother clung desperately to my clothes. I wrenched myself free from her grip. It's not that I'm the one who dotes on my brother the most. It's that the whole family only cares about him. Now, you can ask him for a little payback. As for my bone marrow, don't even think about it. I will never agree. My mother stared at me blankly, finally believing that I wouldn't give them what they wanted. She suddenly let out a chilling laugh. After all these years of raising you, you turn out to be an ungrateful wretch. Do you really think you'll carry that baby to term? Aren't you afraid of a sudden miscarriage, or giving birth to a fool or a cripple? 5. My heart raced and my head buzzed as I watched her hurl vicious curses at my child. I nearly lost my balance, seeing I was in a bad way. Jasper immediately supported me and helped me walk back. My mom was still trying to cling to me like a stubborn adhesive patch, but Jasper blocked her. Ouch! My mom fell to the ground. My foot. She kept shouting that she was in so much pain she couldn't stand up. Jasper wanted to help her up. She refused and just lay down on the ground. The neighborhood committee staff had been watching us ever since my mom started making a scene. Seeing her fall, they were afraid it might turn fatal and quickly called an ambulance. Even as she was being carried onto the stretcher, groaning and moaning, my mom managed to grab hold of both me and Jasper. Don't let them get away. They're the ones who pushed me. We went with them to the hospital. It was a broken toe. The doctor said I could be admitted or go home. My mom insisted on staying in the hospital. The doctor gave us a look tinged with sympathy. My mom was not having it. What are you looking at? It was this son-in-law of mine who pushed me. It's only right that they take care of me, Jasper protested. Mom, I really didn't push you. You ran into me. What are you trying to say? Even with a broken toe, my mom's upper body was as fierce as ever. She grabbed Jasper by the collar, yelling at him, her spit flying right into his face. Are you saying I have a death wish? That I'm playing games with my own life? The doctor quickly stopped her. Ma'am, please keep your voice down. This is a hospital. My mother shot him a dirty look and settled back into bed, completely unbothered. During this time, all we could do was take care of my mother, but my dad can't be left alone, so I had to hire a caregiver. I reluctantly pulled out the money. There's no choice. Both elderly are bedridden. What I really want is to live a quiet life as soon as possible. Money doesn't matter. I don't want to get too entangled with them. Within a few days, my mom was discharged. Or more accurately, kicked out by the hospital. Hospital beds were in extremely short supply, and my mom's daily video calls with my dad at night severely disrupted the rest of the other patients in the ward. I thought things would settle down now, and Jasper and I could finally end our night watch routine. Who could have expected my mom to pull another nasty trick? She directly called my husband. Jasper, let me tell you, this time you pushed me down and caused a fracture. I've already consulted a lawyer, and it's considered minor injury, so you're facing a lawsuit anyway. You decide for yourself. If Bianca still refuses to donate bone marrow, you'll end up in jail. Jasper was on speakerphone at the time. I felt a flush of heat on my face. This was my mother. Jasper was equally firm, stepping forward. I'd rather go to jail than let Bianca go. Give up on that idea. My mother cursed ungrateful and slammed down the phone. Not long after, we received a summons from the court, accompanied by my brother and a lawyer. My mother stood at the plaintiff's table, tearfully and emotionally accusing us. Your Honor, I had come to see my daughter so we could visit her sick father, but then, my son-in-law got upset. He shoved my old lady hard, and I fell to the ground in pain. The lawyer submitted the ambulance call report, along with the hospital medical records and injury assessment forms, as evidence, seeing that we, the defendants, had no legal representation. He flashed a smile of certain victory. While my mom was still in the hospital, she kept blaming Jasper. Every single day, I had no choice but to call the property management right in front of her, asking them to pull the surveillance footage from that corner to clear Jasper's name, but the property management told me point blank that it was a blind spot for the cameras. My mom heard that too, so now, she thinks she can just spin her own version of events and make the accusation stick. 6. I calmly presented the witnesses and evidence, speaking calmly and composed. At the time the incident occurred, we were in a blind spot for surveillance. However, that doesn't mean no one recorded the truth. That day, my mom's behavior was incredibly bizarre. It wasn't just the elderly ladies taking their evening stroll downstairs who were drawn in. Even Miss Chin from the second floor of the building opposite was roused by the commotion. Being a spectator to drama is human nature. At that moment, she happened to be at a loose end, doing yoga in her room facing the floor-to-ceiling window. The sight of my mom's legendary spectacle made her forget her pose in an instant. He immediately picked up his phone and turned on the recording function. The video clearly shows that Jasper was just protecting me, standing between me and my mom. It was my mom who rushed over, collided with Jasper, and then stumbled and fell to the ground. Throughout the entire incident, Jasper did not exhibit any inappropriate behavior. I know my mom too well. Luckily I had this trick up my sleeve. When I found out there was no surveillance, I was worried my mom might try something, so I immediately sought help in the neighborhood group chat. I asked if anyone had witnessed our argument and requested them to step forward as a witness. Miston immediately added me on WeChat and sent me the video. So it's your family's business. That old lady's acting skills or something else. Miston is a person who hates injustice and was more than willing to testify in court, and so, in the courtroom, the evidence was overwhelming. My mom wasn't having it and shouted, "They all live in the same community, they're all acquaintances, they must be covering for each other." My brother chimed in, lifting his eyelids. "Who knows if the video is even real or just a fake?" The judge repeatedly shouted silence, but couldn't stop them from continuing to make noise. I saw the lawyer on the opposite side, already rubbing his forehead in frustration. "This money isn't worth it," witness Miston said arrogantly. "I am willing to bear legal responsibility for the evidence I provided. If the video is real, would you dare admit that you were slandering?" In the end, the judge ruled that Jasper was not at fault. As we left the courthouse, my mother and brother were waiting for us on the steps outside. My mother's yellowish eyes were filled with malice. "You got lucky this time, but next time, who knows? By the way, I forgot to tell you, the doctor said your father's condition is improving, and he can hold on for 3 months." Of course, I understood what she really meant. For the next 3 months, she would stop at nothing to mess with us. My younger brother chimed in sarcastically, "Sis, what are you even holding on to? Do you really enjoy turning the house upside down?" My mom spat out, "She doesn't feel like one of us. She just loves stirring up trouble and has no sense of filial duty." I didn't take it to heart and walked past them sideways. When Jasper got home, he felt a pang of regret. "Bianca, I'm still a bit scared. If there hadn't been video evidence, I would have been left with no recourse. What's even scarier is if I ended up in jail and wasn't by your side. I'm afraid they might resort to force. Maybe I should send you away for a while, to my parents' hometown." I refused. This despicable act has crossed my bottom line. I'm not letting them off the hook that easily, so I said with absolute determination, "I'm not going anywhere. Next, I'm going to face them head on. Actually, no, I'm taking the fight to them." "What are you planning?" "Don't do anything rash. I'm worried you'll wear yourself out. Your health comes first," Jasper said, deeply concerned. "Don't worry, I promise I won't make a move until I'm sure both I and the baby are completely safe." I reassured him. "Strike the snake at its 7-inch mark. No one knows Magda and Barnaby better than I do. Their most vulnerable spot is naturally Phaeton. They go through all those twists and turns, doing all that work, just to avoid taking a single vial of Phaeton's blood. The most laughable part is that when they hid that tissue typing report, they didn't even tell Phaeton, all to ensure Phaeton wouldn't carry the slightest psychological burden. Well then, I'll make a point of targeting their beloved youngest son, 7. I started a poll online and bought some traffic. Old father with leukemia versus baby conceived after 6 years of trying to save the father. The baby must be aborted for bone marrow donation. Who would you choose to save? To be honest, this question is really hard to choose. The PK rate has been hovering around 50-50, and netizens in the comments section are arguing non-stop. No one can convince the other. No one is more important than my parents. I would only choose to save my father. 6 years of trying to conceive. Ladies, if the blogger aborts the baby, she might never be able to get pregnant again in her lifetime. Is the child really that important? As a mom, I would most likely choose the child. On the other hand, the father is older and has already experienced life, but the child hasn't even had a chance to see the world yet. I sat in front of my computer, watching the number of comments rise steadily, heading towards 2000. On the third day, I decided to go live online. I will also share my own answer with everyone. A viewer in the live stream asked curiously, "Excuse me, host, is this a real situation you're going through?" I admitted, "That's right. I'm currently over 5 months pregnant. We tried for 6 years before finally conceiving, but, very unfortunately, my father has been diagnosed with leukemia." For a moment, the chat was filled with messages of comfort and support for me. I forced a pained smile. "But this matter has already been properly resolved. The netizens pressed me for my decision," I said. "Thank you for your concern, everyone. I don't have to make a choice anymore, because my brother was also a successful match." I took out that report and held it up in the live stream, not even bothering to cover Phaeton's name. "Yeah, I did it on purpose," I continued, "but right now, my mom and brother are probably wrestling with the decision. After all, donating bone marrow is a big deal. It can take a toll on the body." One user chimed in with some facts. "For a healthy adult man, donating that amount of hematopoietic stem cells is no big deal. The body replenishes them in a few days." Someone else added, "Even if it affects your health, you should still save your own father. The blogger is pregnant and still worrying about her dad." Someone else said, "This guy looks just like a colleague from our office." The live stream got around 20,000 views. After ending the stream, I sent the replay to a few friends and told them to spread it far and wide. In our little town, even the smallest piece of gossip gets blown out of proportion and becomes common knowledge. How could this not bring a smile to everyone's face then? I turned off my phone and slept peacefully. When I woke up in the morning, there were over a dozen missed calls on my phone. They were all from my mom and brother. What's going on? Back when they were begging me to donate bone marrow. They only called 7 times a day. Can't you just hold your horses? My mom called again, and I picked up without hesitation. Bianca, what exactly do you want? You're driving your brother to the brink of death. If anything happens to him, you won't live either. I'll make sure we both die. I laughed and said, what? Are we suddenly talking about murder and arson? I haven't done anything. My mother screamed, you haven't done anything. Now everyone is pressuring your brother to donate bone marrow. Even strangers are calling him. He's being driven crazy. I said indifferently, then just donate it. He's always been afraid of pain since he was a child, and he's going to get married and have kids, to carry on the Joe family line. My mom's screams kept piercing through the phone's earpiece. To protect my eardrums, I held the phone far away. You guys figure it out. One's your husband, the other's your son. It's none of my business. 8. Phaeton barged into our neighborhood with bloodshot eyes, frantically pounding on my front door. Jasper had no intention of opening it. I told him to stay calm, explaining that Phaeton was a cowardly and selfish person who always hid behind his parents, content to be a quiet beneficiary of their protection. He really didn't have the guts to go all out against me. Sure enough, as soon as I opened the door, Phaeton came running over, crying, Sister, I really can't do it. It's not that I don't want to donate. It's that my girlfriend won't let me. Without her, I can't go on. If you can't go on, then just die, I said lazily. Phaeton was momentarily speechless. Then they told me that not only had it spread online, but even the leaders and colleagues at their workplace knew about it. Everyone just assumed, as a matter of course, that Phaeton should donate. It's gotten to the point where he's afraid to go to work now, feeling like people are constantly eyeing his blood. Yeah, I know that feeling. I've always had, at any moment, my own flesh and blood coveted by my relatives. Sister, if I don't donate now, they'll all look down on me. I can't stay in this unit anymore. Do you know how hard I worked to get in here? So, what do you want me to do? I calmly looked at him. He stammered, just do another live stream, tell everyone that Dad has been saved, and I've already donated. Can you do that? Do you want me to lie to everyone? Phaeton's eyes flickered, and he nodded. He really had it all figured out, kept his job, kept his girlfriend, and his reputation intact, perfect in every way, except this deception would completely disqualify my dad from social matching, leaving him with even less of a chance. Let's be realistic, I'm not going to deceive everyone. I refused him outright. He was furious. You won't even help with such a small favor. I watched as he raised his fist, took a step forward, and pointed to my stomach. Come on, hit me here, that way, you can just shoot me and be done with all these troubles. Phaeton lowered his hand and walked away, utterly lost. Not long after, a friend told me Phaeton and his girlfriend broke up. His girlfriend's family was worried that donating bone marrow would affect his health. Phaeton swore once again that he absolutely would not donate, but her parents felt that if a young man wouldn't even save his own father, he was a truly frightening person. He wouldn't be a suitable son-in-law for their family either. Phaeton was dumbstruck on the spot. It was a vicious cycle. No matter what he did, it was wrong. My father-in-law patted Phaeton on the shoulder and said, if you want to blame someone, blame your family's poor genes. I don't want my future grandson to inherit them. And so, Phaeton's dream of marrying into a wealthy and powerful family was shattered. He went without food or drink for several meals. He took out all his resentment on my father and mother. My mother was so heartbroken she couldn't stop crying. For several nights in a row, she didn't go to the hospital to care for my father. Completely preoccupied with the little emperor at home, Phaeton took 2 weeks off work, until his boss finally called the house. Only then did he muster the strength to drag himself back to the office. After all, the fact remained, his girlfriend was gone. I can't afford to lose this prestigious job. With all the chaos at home, they had no time to pay attention to me. It gave me several days of peace and quiet. Ultimately, under the pressure of morality and the watchful eyes of my superiors and colleagues, Phaeton agreed to donate bone marrow. My mom called me right away. You're satisfied now. Phaeton is going to donate bone marrow tomorrow. But let me tell you, you're paying for the medical expenses. I didn't respond. If you really want to, you can sue me later. 9. I also rushed to the hospital early in the morning with Jasper, mainly to see the disappointed expression on my mother's face and the resigned expression on Phaeton's face, to my surprise. This seemingly certain matter has taken an unexpected turn this time. It's my dad's fault. After learning that his youngest son Phaeton was going to donate bone marrow for him, my dad absolutely refused to go on the operating table. Despite being ill, he mustered all his strength and clung tightly to the railings of the hospital bed. The two young nurses couldn't move him at all. My father said stubbornly, "No more treatment. I'd rather just die." The young nurse was on the verge of tears, pleading with him, "Sir, you've finally found a matching bone marrow donor after all this waiting." My father grew even angrier. "That's my son, the future of our family. How could I possibly do him harm?" His display of deep paternal love was enough to move anyone who didn't know the truth. Finally, the attending physician arrived as well. He patiently explained to my father that donating bone marrow wouldn't cause excessive harm to the donor and that a few days of rest would be sufficient. To our surprise, my father's eyes welled up with tears, and he said bluntly, "You're all lying to me. Phaeton must have put you up to this. That foolish boy, why is he so reckless?" Due to my father's obstruction, the surgery ultimately could not proceed. Back in the general ward, my mother and Phaeton gathered around the old man, Jasper, and I stayed hidden behind them. My father gave a light cough and said, "I'm old. I won't go through with the treatment. If I end up being a burden to my son, I truly wouldn't be able to rest in peace." My mother was heartbroken too. Both her husband and her son were her whole world, so she whispered, "Old man, the doctor said it's actually fine. You can donate." My dad coughed even harder and cursed, "Those are all quacks. If you go ahead and operate on me without my consent, I'll jump out this window." Seeing that my dad didn't want his bone marrow, Phaeton took the opportunity to back down. "Dad, Mom, let's wait a bit longer. Maybe there will be a match in the bone marrow registry by then." My dad felt relieved. Then, his eyes swept over my belly. He scoffed with disdain. "What are you doing here? Go spend your life with that little bastard in your belly. When it's born, it'll be just another ungrateful brat." Unfazed, I replied with a grin, "No need for you to worry about that. I just want him to be healthy and well. If you're still around, don't forget to come to the baby's first birthday party. Of course, if you have that surgery today, you might just make it." I emphasized the words "healthy and well" with particular force. My dad's face turned pale with anger in an instant. "Get out of here. I don't have a daughter like you. Don't come when I'm dead. You think I wanted to come?" I pulled Jasper and left without looking back. Just as I was about to step out the door, my dad called out to me, "Nia, if you're willing now, I still consider you my daughter." I almost laughed so hard it affected the baby. "Sorry, Dad. I don't think being your daughter is a good thing." I never imagined that would be the last time I saw my dad. One day, 3 months later, Jasper started stammering at the dinner table. Only after I pressed him did he tell me my father had passed away. His condition deteriorated severely because he didn't receive surgery in time. Even the doctors were powerless to save him. My mother fainted from crying in the hospital, demanding the hospital compensate for his death or she would commit suicide in front of the attending physician. The hospital is well practiced in dealing with such situations. They immediately produced the contract, signed by my father himself, waiving the surgery, along with on-the-spot video footage. All the evidence pointed to one conclusion: my father, in a fully lucid state, had refused the surgery with unwavering determination. The hospital was merely respecting the patient's wishes and had done nothing wrong. My mother continued to make a scene and throw tantrums at the hospital for several more days. Only when it became clear they couldn't squeeze any more money out of us did they finally take my father back to our hometown. After hearing that, I fell silent for a moment. So it's come to this after all. In truth, from the moment he refused the surgery, I knew he was a dead man. "Bianca, I'm really creeped out." Jasper's face changed slightly as he said, "The nurses said your dad kept muttering your name before he died, hoping you would change your mind and come to save him." I felt goosebumps all over. I was indeed creeped out. He really waited in vain. There's no turning back for me. My mom called and told me to attend the funeral. I refused, saying, "Didn't my dad say that even when he died, he wouldn't want me there?" Not long ago, my cousin back in my hometown just sent me a message. She told me back in our hometown, my mother and younger brother have pinned the blame for my father's death squarely on me. So now, my uncles from the countryside are planning to give me a proper lesson at the funeral. They're determined to make me pay a hefty sum to my mother as compensation, and while they're at it, have the old family house renovated. And sure enough, after my mother saw that I refused to go back home, immediately furious, curses flew out. "You have no shame. You didn't even come back when your father died. Unworthy of being a child. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? The ancestors of the Zhou family are watching you. You didn't come back. According to custom, the daughter has to pay for the funeral, so send the money back. Hey, don't hang up the phone. I couldn't be bothered to listen to her rant, so I just hung up and waddled off to watch TV with my big belly. Not long after, my baby was born. She's a beautiful girl, Jasper, and I have decided to have just one child, to give her a love that is one of a kind. Life has been very hard for my mother since my father passed away. The household expenses used to be covered by my father's pension, but that's all gone now. My mother often has to borrow money just to play mahjong. After I had the baby, she came over several times, saying she wanted to take care of me and the newborn. Then she asked us to give her the $8,000 monthly nanny fee instead. She called it family care, claiming only family can provide proper care. Jasper didn't hesitate to kick my mom out of the house and change the locks. As for Phaeton, since my dad's death, he repeatedly pestered his ex-girlfriend, even claiming that the obstacles between them were gone, and he knelt at his former father-in-law's house several times, begging for another chance. He even neglected his job, completely focused on winning back his ex-girlfriend. After multiple warnings from his superiors went unheeded, he was placed on unpaid leave. Meanwhile, his ex-girlfriend had already moved on with someone new. Her new beau is a young gentleman from a perfectly suitable family. He immediately had Phaeton beaten up. Word has it that Phaeton was accidentally kicked in the groin and lost his ability to father children. Poor Joe family's sole heir. Their lineage has ended with him. The end. Story 2. In my past life, my sister-in-law found a beautiful girl on the street and was determined to raise her. Noticing the girl seemed too mature for her age, I sensed something was off and urged my sister-in-law to take the child to the police station. She not only ignored me but went ahead and raised the girl in secret. She even told the girl that I wanted to abandon her, and the child started looking at me with pure venom in her eyes. I later discovered her true identity. He was actually a man. Before I could call the police, he poisoned me and staged it to look like a heart attack. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day we found the girl. My sister-in-law picked her up with pity in her eyes. She's so adorable. Let's take her home with us. I watched Damon's greedy expression, curling my lips into a smile. I replied, my sister-in-law has such a kind heart, why don't we adopt her? Reading the documents in my hands, I froze in shock. Belle was actually a wanted criminal. Before I could even grab my phone, a sharp pain shot through my stomach, my vision went black, and I collapsed to the floor. Belle emerged from the wardrobe, her expression cold and menacing as she stared at me. He wore bright red lipstick, with his nails painted in the same vibrant shade. His face held a maturity beyond his years. I didn't expect you to find out. I wasn't planning to kill anyone lately. I thought I'd keep you around a bit longer. But it seems that's not an option now, Auntie. I glared at him in fury, but the searing pain quickly stole my voice. I remembered when my sister-in-law first found Belle. Though she acted adorable and pitiable, there was a hint of maturity in her behavior that didn't match her age. My sister-in-law and brother had been married for 3 years without children, and she took an instant liking to this clever, charming little girl. I suggested we take her to the police station first to verify everything before adopting, but the moment the girl heard police station, she burst into loud sobs. My sister-in-law shot me a glare. Why are you scaring her? Are you jealous of me? You just can't stand seeing me have my own child. She insisted on not calling the police and took the child straight home. My brother always listens to his wife, so the two happily took the little girl shopping. I noticed Belle was acting very strangely. Growing increasingly concerned, I urged my brother and sister-in-law again. There's something off about this child. She behaves like an adult. Brother, you should really call the police and have this properly investigated. My sister-in-law's expression shifted. My brother also seemed uneasy, but worried they might not meet adoption requirements. He had someone inquire at the police station and was told there were no missing girls around 10 years old. After that, my sister-in-law took an even greater dislike to me. She started targeting me behind my back and constantly badmouthed me to Belle, claiming I wanted to throw her out and kick her to the curb. The look in Belle's eyes when she glanced at me grew increasingly venomous. Later, bugs would mysteriously appear in my milk, and the alarm I set for the morning would suddenly go off in the dead of night. I initially thought Belle was just precocious and, influenced by her mother's gossip, was playing petty pranks to get back at me. It wasn't until I saw with my own eyes Belle using my sister-in-law's makeup, applying it with practiced ease, and then climbing onto my brother all dolled up and mature-like, coyly begging for a kiss. With a dark expression, I told my brother, there's definitely something wrong with this child. She actually put bugs in my cup. Don't you think it's strange that a girl her age is so skilled at applying makeup? My brother snapped. Summer, what's so strange about a little girl like Belle loving to dress up? It's your own dirty mind that sees filth Everywhere, he said with clear displeasure. Belle is such a well-behaved girl. Why would she ever put bugs in your cup? Maybe you just had a stroke of bad luck. Yolanda's right. You're just dying for us to have kids. Are you worried they'll come after your inheritance? Trembling with rage, I packed my bags to move out. My sister-in-law watched with gleeful schadenfreude, while my brother sat in stony silence, his face dark. As I stepped out of the villa and glanced back, I saw Belle waving at me from the third-floor window. Still uneasy, I had someone look into it discreetly, and eventually, we started uncovering clues. Belle, originally named Damon, was a dwarf who disguised himself as a woman, and he was also a murderer. But before I could inform my brother, I was poisoned by Belle, who had infiltrated the place. After death, my soul drifted home, where my sister-in-law couldn't hide her smile upon hearing the news of my demise. "Asu," she said, "the family fortune is all ours now." It seems this was meant to be. My brother seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, not a trace of sorrow on his face as he hastily arranged a shabby funeral for me. My heart was utterly broken. Turns out my brother had been waiting for me to die all along so he could claim the family fortune for himself. My consciousness slowly faded, and when I came to, I heard my sister-in-law's startled cry followed by the screech of sudden brakes. My sister-in-law got out and scooped up the little girl who darted into the road. Where did this child come from? What's she doing alone in these mountains? The little girl's eyes darted around before she threw herself into her sister-in-law's arms, sobbing and calling her mom. I stared in disbelief at the scene unfolding before me. Could it be that I had been reborn? At the sight of my sworn enemy, my heart swelled with hatred, and I wished I could strangle him right then and there. My sister-in-law's heart melted as she comforted the little girl in her arms. "Summer, this child is so beautiful and well-behaved, with no one else around in this desolate place. Let's take her home with us." I looked at Damon, whose eyes gleamed with greed, and said, "Sis, this little girl suddenly appeared in these mountains late at night. She was probably abandoned on purpose, since she likes you so much. Why don't you adopt her?" Her eyes lit up as she nodded repeatedly. "That's exactly what I was thinking. This child is so well-behaved and adorable, I can't imagine who would be so cruel." She coaxed the girl in her arms. "Little one, would you like to come home with me?" Damon, or rather Belle, threw herself sobbing into her arms. "Mommy, please don't abandon me. Don't leave me behind. I want to go home with you." Wah. After my sister-in-law brought Belle home, my brother fully supported the idea. He prepared a lavish princess-themed room for her and took her shopping for countless dresses and hair accessories, with an expression of disbelief. Belle cautiously asked, "Is this really my room?" As she spoke, she began to cry. They held her tenderly and said, "Of course, from now on, you're our precious daughter, our little princess, our darling. We'll call you Belle." Having been childless for years, my sister-in-law seemed to glow with newfound joy after finding Belle, proudly showing her off everywhere they went. That very night, she gathered relatives and friends for a feast, setting up a full 6 tables. Belle's angelic face was a real credit to her, and her sweet demeanor made her especially endearing. My sister-in-law paraded her around, showing her off everywhere, while I kept my distance, wanting no part of the spectacle. I couldn't stand the sight of Belle. Every time I saw him, I wanted to slap him, honestly felt like strangling him right then and there. My sister-in-law wouldn't let me off the hook, spotting me hiding behind the crowd. She led the child straight toward me, too. She bragged smugly, "Summer, Belle here is a prodigy. Can you believe she's already solving 9th grade math at 10? She's way brighter than you were at that age." The little girl threw herself into my arms and chirped sweetly, "Auntie is so pretty. Belle loves Auntie." As she blinked her dewy eyes, I suppressed my disgust, gently pushed her away, and forced a smile. "You're truly blessed, sis. This child is destined for greatness." My sister-in-law picked up Belle with an even more smug smile. "Exactly," she said. "This little one just adores me. It's fate. We're meant to be mother and daughter. She'll definitely take good care of me when she grows up, unlike some people who are still old maids." I forced a smile along with her. My sister-in-law really knows how to pick her words, doesn't she? I just wonder what kind of taking care she has in mind. I couldn't stand watching them being all lovey-dovey, so I made an excuse about needing the restroom and headed for the door. Just as I stepped out, I heard my sister-in-law's voice from inside the room. "Who is she trying to fool? She's just jealous that I have such a sweet, well-behaved daughter." Belle's voice chimed in. "Mom, Auntie is so pretty. I really like her." My sister-in-law said disapprovingly, "Belle, you shouldn't like her. She's cunning and looks down on you. She might even kick you out of the house." Belle obediently murmured in agreement. My face fell. She left the hotel just like that. So this is when she started sowing discord. When Belle first arrived, she obediently tried to win over my brother and sister-in law, occasionally showing her intelligence. My sister-in-law grew increasingly fond of her and bought her many dolls that little girls love. She violently tore those dolls apart and then stitched them back together, and my sister-in-law even praised her sewing skills, saying she could become a doctor someday. While my brother was at work, his wife took Belle around the neighborhood to show her off. Soon, everyone in the gated community knew our family had adopted a beautiful, brilliant child. Prodigy. 2 months later, they enrolled Belle in an elite private school. My sister-in-law insisted Belle was so gifted she could easily handle 9th grade coursework. Within days, the teacher called my sister-in-law. She rushed to the school immediately after hearing Belle was being bullied, to find out what really happened. I rushed to the school with her. There was a red swelling on Belle's forehead. She burst into tears when she saw her aunt, who was so heartbroken that she started yelling. Who did this? What are the teachers even doing here? The female teacher, holding the little girl's hand, apologized. I'm sorry, Belle's mom. It was just a small disagreement between the kids. She's already apologized. It's my fault for not keeping a closer eye on them. The little girl being led by the teacher had red, teary eyes. The boy standing next to Belle was waving his fist like a knight defending his princess. The woman glared at the little girl and snapped, "How dare you hit my child? You're nothing but a spoiled brat with no upbringing." The girl's eyes welled up with tears as she sobbed. "I didn't hit her, she banged her head on purpose." Belle also started crying. Seeing this, the woman charged at the little girl, ready to strike her. The teachers rushed to break up the fight. Just then, the girl's parents arrived and saw their daughter being hit by the woman. They immediately protested, and the scene descended into chaos. My sister-in-law threatened to call the police, and the teacher, suddenly alarmed, quickly mentioned there were security cameras across the street and suggested checking the footage. I immediately stirred the pot. "Sis, the teacher says there are cameras. Since the kid won't admit it, let's just review the footage." My sister-in-law was too furious to notice the flash of panic on Belle's face. After watching the surveillance video, the room fell into a stunned silence. The little girl's parents said sarcastically, "Like mother, like daughter, she's already scheming at such a young age. Wonder who she learned that from." Belle's tears fell faster as she sobbed to her sister-in-law. "Mom isn't like that. I was just so scared. She said she'd hit me after school." Humiliated, the sister-in-law slapped Belle and snapped, "Apologize right now. How dare you be so malicious at your age?" With that, the sister-in-law shoved Belle toward me and stormed off. Belle's face was flushed and swollen as she glared sullenly at her sister-in-law's retreating figure. I was utterly stunned, but couldn't just walk away. I wanted to see how my sister-in-law would put Belle in her place. I quickly apologized to the person and compensated them before taking Belle back home. My sister-in-law lashed out at Belle. "Why would you do that? Do you have any idea how much you embarrassed me?" My brother rushed in just then and was heartbroken to see Belle's injuries. "Yolanda, what are you doing? No matter what, you can't hit a child." My brother picked her up and comforted her gently. "Belle is such a good girl. She definitely didn't do this on purpose, right? Can you tell Daddy why you did this?" Belle, with red eyes, stammered, "It's because people used to hit me a lot. It hurt all over. People at school also said they would hit me. I was so scared that I wanted the teacher to." Hearing this, my sister-in-law immediately regretted it. She looked at Belle with pity, then picked her up and apologized. Her heart softened as she said, "I'm sorry. It's my fault. Next time something like this happens, tell me and I'll make sure to stand up for you. But you mustn't do this again." My sister-in-law's eyes were red and teary. Belle made a funny face, which made my sister-in-law and brother laugh. The three of them looked so warm and happy together. I pursed my lips and rolled my eyes. If my sister-in-law knew that Belle was actually older than her, and a man, no less, I wonder if she'd still be able to laugh. This time, Belle's target for revenge shifted from me to my sister-in-law. Cockroaches would mysteriously appear in her water cup, and her phone would ring abruptly at midnight. At first, she thought it was just a streak of bad luck and even replaced her phone. After 5 consecutive days, she sensed something was off, but it never crossed her mind that Belle was behind it. She eyed me suspiciously for a long moment, then said in a snide tone, "Some people are just so jealous. They only know how to scheme behind others' backs." I looked at her completely baffled. She glowered, but without proof. She couldn't outright accuse me. Then, at 3 in the afternoon, my sister-in-law's furious shouts erupted from downstairs. A wave of glee washed over me. I hurried out and hid upstairs to watch the drama unfold. My brother was shielding Belle while trying to calm his wife down. My sister-in-law snapped, "A 10-year-old pulling this kind of stunt. I'm going to teach her a lesson today." My brother scolded his wife for the first Time, stop acting like a shrew. Aren't you too old to be picking on a child? Her eyes welling up, my sister-in-law cried, Felix, how dare you yell at me? Who do you think you are? I'm going to give that girl a beating right now. In a fit of rage, my sister-in-law lunged at Belle. My brother's face darkened as he shoved her back. My sister-in-law fell to the floor. My brother froze for a second, then picked up Belle and walked away without looking back. I'm taking her out, you've terrified. Belle, you need to calm down. Furious, my sister-in-law screamed through her tears, Get out, all of you, get out, and don't you dare come back. Seeing that the timing was right, I hurried downstairs. What's going on? Are you okay, sis? Where's my brother? When she saw me, my sister-in-law cried even harder, Summer, your brother pushed me. After all these years of marriage, I've worked my fingers to the bone taking care of this family. How dare he treat me like this? He even called me a shrew, my sister-in-law gradually calmed down, then started complaining again about Belle releasing insects and setting up the alarm. Suppressing a smile, I comforted her and said, Have you considered that this child was previously abused and abandoned? Maybe she's doing this because she likes you and wants your attention. Her expression brightened as she agreed. Exactly, Belle must have lacked love and suffered abuse before. I haven't been spending enough time with her lately. The poor thing is just trying every way possible to get my attention. She stood up and brushed off her clothes, saying, From now on I'll focus more on Belle. I must have frightened her just now. I should go buy a little cake to cheer her up, I said with a smile. Sis, you're so kind. Belle is truly blessed to have a mom like you. My sister-in-law shot me a smug look and said, Damn right. From then on, she spoiled Belle even more, buying her whatever she wanted. My brother was thrilled, saying this was how a mother should be. Belle wasn't like other kids, she'd been through so much, and as their daughter, she deserved to be happy. Belle stopped pretending to be well-behaved and started showing her spoiled side, which made my brother and sister-in-law even happier. They took it as a sign that she had accepted this as her home. Now that she felt comfortable enough to throw childish tantrums, Belle became even more attached to my brother, and my sister-in-law was upset about it for days. I must have scared her that time, she said, or else she'd be clinging to me instead. My sister-in-law tried to make it up to her twice as much, and Belle started playing with her makeup. Sometimes she'd even sneak up to the third floor to rummage through my things. When I caught her, she showed no guilt, just kept digging through my stuff right in front of me. Bold as brass, I smiled warmly and said, If you like something, Belle, just tell Auntie. What's mine is yours. She nodded. Then her eyes lit up with an idea. You're so good to me, Auntie. Your dresses are too big for me. Could you have one made in my size? I immediately agreed and complimented her. Belle has such great taste. You look absolutely stunning in that dress. It's sure to be a hit. What woman doesn't love being told she looks beautiful? Belle smiled shyly and said, Thank you, Auntie. Belle started wearing more mature dresses, applying bold eyeshadow and bright red lipstick. With crimson polish on her fingers and toes, she climbed onto her brother's lap and cooed, Daddy, is Belle pretty? My brother hugged her and kissed her cheek. Belle is my little princess. You'll always be the most beautiful in Daddy's eyes. Not content with just a cheek kiss, Belle started planting sloppy kisses right on his mouth, even slipping her little tongue out. A wave of disgust washed over me. I felt like I might vomit. I pretended not to see anything and busied myself with my laptop. Belle giggled coyly. You're the best, Dad. So, who do you like more, me or Mom? For my brother answered without hesitation, You, of course, you're my little sweetheart. My sister-in-law missed the dramatic moment. Seeing Belle doing her makeup, she praised her for being so skilled with her hands. Belle just smiled without saying a word and continued applying her lipstick. I happened to arrive home just as my sister-in-law returned from her parents' house. I had just gone back to my bedroom when my sister-in-law's scream came from downstairs. Felix, what are you doing? Why isn't Belle wearing any clothes? I called downstairs. Is everything okay with my brother? What's wrong with my sister-in-law? My brother's panicked voice responded, It's nothing, Summer. You should get some rest. Don't come down. Your sister-in-law and I need to talk. I was hiding behind the staircase to watch the scene unfold. The spot was perfectly concealed, giving me a direct view into the master bedroom. Belle was lying on their bed wearing heavy makeup and nothing but her underwear, while my brother had also taken off his clothes. His expression steadied as he said, What are you shouting for? When your mind is filthy, everything you see looks dirty. Belle is our daughter. What do you think I could possibly do? If you hadn't gone back to your parents' house and neglected her care, she wouldn't have gotten a fever, and I wouldn't have needed to wipe her down with alcohol. My sister-in-law froze for a moment. Just then, Belle opened her eyes in a daze, spotted her, and scrambled up excitedly. Mommy, Belle doesn't feel good. You're finally back. My sister-in-law apologized to my brother, her voice filled with shame. I'm sorry, Felix, I overthought things. And just like that, the dramatic scene came to an end. My brother and his wife are truly beyond hopeless. Even though Belle has dwarfism, she's still an adult with her own needs and desires. He stripped naked and slipped under the covers. His intentions were crystal clear. My brother is hopelessly naive. Though his delicate features are probably why she took a liking to him. When my sister-in-law returned and interrupted Belle's plans, Belle's expression turned sour. They assumed she was feeling unwell and insisted on taking her to the hospital for a checkup. Belle flinched nervously. "I'm fine, Mom and Dad. Don't worry about me. Belle doesn't need any shots." I quietly slipped back into the bedroom. She dared not go to the hospital. One examination would reveal her secret. After this incident, my sister-in-law began giving Belle the talk about gender. She felt it was her own failure in parenting. I bought various illustrated books to teach her the differences between boys and girls. My brother thought it was too early for such education. Since Belle seemed confused, my sister-in-law gently tried explaining a few times before giving up. My sister-in-law didn't enroll Belle in school, believing the child was exceptionally bright. She discussed with my brother and decided to hire a private tutor for homeschooling, planning for Belle to directly take the college entrance exam when the time comes. She started enrolling Belle in piano lessons, dance classes, and all sorts of extracurriculars. She confiscated Belle's phone and replaced it with a smartwatch, saying, "Kids shouldn't spend so much time on phones. The internet is such a mess these days. I don't want her picking up bad habits." She replaced all the TVs at home with child-friendly versions and told me, "Summer, make sure you lock your door when you get home. We don't want Belle snooping around and learning who knows what from your room." I pretended to hesitate but agreed, secretly thrilled. I'd wanted to lock my door for ages but never had a good excuse. Belle scowled. "Why can't I look at my phone, Mom? You can't just restrict my freedom like that." With that, she lunged for the phone in her sister-in-law's hand, catching her completely off guard. Belle's sharp nails scratched her sister-in-law's face, and I quickly tried to play peacemaker. "Sis, maybe just give her the phone for now," I added, trying to smooth things over. "Belle, your sister-in-law, she was just joking around." Dodging Belle's sharp fingernails, my sister-in-law wasn't so lucky. Belle clawed her face badly, leaving it covered in blood. My brother rushed over when he heard the commotion to break it up, scolding his wife. "Why did you have to take her phone for no reason? She's still young. These things need to be handled gradually." My brother tried to calm the furious Belle down. While I took my sister-in-law to the hospital, the doctor stared at her face in shock. My sister-in-law quickly explained, "I got scratched while feeding the stray cats in our neighborhood." As the antiseptic was applied, she broke out in a cold sweat from the pain. On the way home, she looked utterly drained. I thought she had finally noticed there was something off about that girl Belle. She sighed heavily. We were too late. Belle used to be such a sweet girl. These smartphones really are a curse. I used to see news reports about kids getting addicted to the internet, becoming extremely irritable and turning against their own families, but I never took it seriously. At least Belle is still young enough to change her ways. I was completely stunned. Is Belle just that good at acting? How could my sister-in-law not see anything wrong with this and instead blame herself? When we got home, Belle was crying pitifully, as if she had committed some unforgivable crime. She knelt sobbing at her mother's feet and confessed, "Mom, Belle was wrong. I don't know why I lost control of myself. I never meant to hurt you." Seeing her face scratched like that, my sister-in-law was clearly upset. She stared at Belle without saying a word. When Belle saw her silence, she hardened her heart and scratched her own arm until it bled. "If Mommy hurts, Belle will hurt for you. Please don't ignore Belle." My sister-in-law's heart softened. She stroked Belle's head and said, "Belle, Mommy isn't blaming you. This isn't your fault." Belle started behaving like her old obedient self again, and her tutor kept praising how quickly she grasped new concepts. My sister-in-law breathed a sigh of relief, thinking Belle had finally turned over a new leaf, and started boasting to everyone about her child being a prodigy. Only I knew that with her putting on such an angelic act, she was definitely brewing up some major scheme. This time, I didn't let excessive worry distract me from work and channeled all my energy into my job. In my past life, I was so worried about my brother that I often spaced out at work while investigating Belle. After 3 warnings from my boss, I was disqualified from the vice president campaign. While shopping with colleagues, I unexpectedly ran into Belle. She was holding hands with a strange man, giggling coquettishly from time to time. They seemed very intimate to any passerby. They might look like a father and daughter, but Belle is a wanted criminal. What if she's an accomplice? In my past life, it took me a long time to confirm he was the murderer. I just don't understand why her face doesn't match the photo. I froze when the man carried him into the hotel. This was someone I'd never encountered in my past life. By this time in my previous life, I had already been poisoned to death by Belle. A sudden realization hit me. Could it be plastic surgery? But who would perform plastic surgery on a wanted criminal unless this person is very close to him, like a relative or a lover. I'm thrilled. The opportunity has finally come to settle the score from my past life. I secretly installed malware on Belle's phone to track its location in real time. Belle took advantage of my brother and sister-in-law being away to go on a date with this man. I had someone look into that man's background, and it turns out he's a plastic surgeon at some small clinic. The man was acting very intimate with Belle, taking her shopping for all sorts of mature women's cosmetics, clothes, and various pieces of jewelry. When my brother and sister-in-law got home, he was putting on this well-behaved act of diligently studying, and my sister-in-law didn't suspect a thing. The next time they met up, I invited my sister-in-law along under the pretense of taking him out for a birthday gift. She's always been one to jump at a bargain. My sister-in-law kept buying one item after another, beaming with unstoppable joy, but that smile was about to vanish from her face. While I was off buying water, my sister-in-law's shriek cut through the air. "Belle, what are you doing here? And who is this man carrying the water?" I pushed through the crowd and saw my sister-in-law confronting Belle, who was crying pitifully, overwhelmed with hurt. Then my sister-in-law turned her glare toward the man. "My daughter is still underage. You monster, you disgusting beast. I'm calling the police. You're going to rot in jail." The man panicked and tried to bolt, but two burly onlookers grabbed him and pinned him down. "Where do you think you're going? You're not going anywhere until the police get here." Sensing things were going south, Belle threw herself into her sister-in-law's arms, sobbing, "Mommy, he said he wanted to be friends with me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." This only made her sister-in-law angrier. She lunged at the restrained man, swinging wildly. In moments, his face was crisscrossed with bloody scratches. "You shameless old bastard, how dare you lay a finger on my daughter." The police took the man away and later informed my sister-in-law that he had no prior criminal record, suggesting this was likely his first attempt at grooming a young girl. The man was sentenced, and my sister-in-law was thrilled. She genuinely believed Belle was the victim, completely unaware of the growing resentment in Belle's eyes as she stared at her retreating back. Belle was subjected to strict discipline by her sister-in-law, her freedom severely restricted. Belle hadn't spoken to my sister-in-law for days. They thought she was just shaken up, but seeing Belle so upset filled me with immense satisfaction. Sensing Belle was about to exact her revenge, I used work as an excuse to move closer to the office. My sister-in-law agreed immediately while my brother stayed silent. She'd been itching for me to move out so they could have the villa to themselves. I packed my bags and couldn't wait to drive away, but not before stirring the pot with Belle one last time. Not long after, my sister-in-law called. "Summer, come home quickly. Belle is acting strange, and your brother won't believe a word I say. He even called me a jealous woman." Suppressing a laugh, I said with concern, "Are you okay, sis? Don't worry. I'll be back right after work." As soon as I got home, I saw the slap mark on my sister-in-law's face. She looked utterly wronged. "Your brother actually hit me over an adopted daughter. Summer, is your brother even human? I've been with him since college. Think of all the hardships I've endured," she fumed. "And Belle, so young and already up to no good, wearing such revealing clothes, putting on makeup, and now she even wants to take a bath with my husband. I knew something was off about this kid from the start. I should have called the police. You can tell she's scheming, a real little brat." My sister-in-law was scowling as she berated Belle, completely unaware that my brother had just carried her back inside. My brother's face darkened further when Belle's innocent voice piped up, "Daddy, what's a little brat? Is mommy complimenting me?" Then my brother and his wife erupted into a screaming match so loud the whole villa could hear them, while Belle stood by with a nasty smirk. My sister-in-law was sobbing from anger at my brother. "I'm calling the police. This child's background is unclear, and she's so cunning." My brother glared at her. "If you dare call the police, we're getting a divorce. It's your own fault for being a barren hen. Who would send away such an obedient girl like Belle?" My brother kicked me out. "Get out of here. You have a place to stay now, so stop coming back all the time for no reason." That very night, my sister-in-law ended up in the emergency room. My brother said it was a heart attack triggered by her rage. My sister-in-law has a heart condition, but she's been managing it well with consistent treatment. It looks like Belle tampered with something. The doctor said my sister-in-law has slipped into a deep coma. They'll monitor her for a few days, but there's a high chance she might not wake up. My brother got cornered and beaten up by our sister-in-law's family. They blamed him for not taking proper care of her and demanded compensation. By the time he'd dealt with his in-laws, face bruised and swollen, night had already fallen. After my sister-in-law's accident, my brother didn't have the energy to take care of Belle, so he asked me to look after her for a few days. I didn't want a ticking time bomb around, so I lied and told him I was Away on a business trip a few days later, I was surprised by a call from my brother. He apologized guiltily. Summer, you've been reborn too, right? I've been reborn as well. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. He spoke urgently. Belle isn't a little girl at all. She's a murderer. She and her accomplice killed us all for money. He paused. Summer, you've forgiven me, right? After you died, we all regretted it. Your sister-in-law cries every day, the last shred of familial affection in my heart withered away. What a wonderful brother I have. If I hadn't witnessed it with my own eyes after my death in my previous life, I might have actually believed his nonsense. I pretended not to understand. Brother, what are you talking about? Are you still half asleep from all the stress? Belle is just a child, isn't she? My brother fell silent for a moment. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. Your sister-in-law has been hurt like this, and I will definitely not let that bastard get away with it. He hung up the phone immediately after. It seems my brother has been reborn too, just like me. In our past lives, they treated Belle so well. 6. Looks like Belle still hasn't let them off the hook. Let's see them tear each other apart. A few days later, the hospital called unexpectedly. My sister-in-law had woken up. She really has 9 lives. The wicked always survive. After all, when I arrived at the hospital, my brother was glaring daggers at Belle, while Belle was sobbing and clinging to my sister-in-law. Belle's face lit up when she saw me. Auntie, she exclaimed, Mommy's awake. The doctor said she can come home tomorrow. My sister-in-law looked touched by Belle's concern, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. She didn't seem to notice how off my brother was acting. My brother shot me an icy glare, then left with his wife and Belle without another word. A whole week went by without a single word from him. I noticed their step count hadn't changed at all for an entire week, which meant they never left the house. Just as I sensed something was wrong, my phone rang. It was my brother calling. His voice was faint. Summer, Belle is the murderer. I stabbed him, but your sister-in-law and I got slashed too. Come back quick and take us to the hospital. Hurry back. Your sister-in-law is fading fast. I checked the time. It was already midnight. Why haven't they called an ambulance when things looked so critical? What on earth are they doing? I ended up driving back anyway. The villa stood pitch black and eerily silent. Scanning my surroundings cautiously, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. As I entered the living room, I saw my sister-in-law lying motionless behind the sofa, while my brother, bruised and battered, was tied up. My heart leaped, and I spun around to dash toward the door, only to find a burly man standing there. There was someone else. From behind me came Belle's coquettish laugh. Where are you off to, little auntie? My brother, his face streaked with tears and snot, begged Belle. I already tricked her into coming for you. You promised to let me go. Please, I'm begging you, let me leave. Belle let out a sinister laugh. Just kidding, you actually believed a murderer. Oh, what a wonderful father you are. I feigned confusion. Belle, are you okay? What's going on? Is that man dangerous? The man tied me up as Belle ran the blade across my cheek. You're so naive. Auntie, can't you see, he and I are in this together. My eyes widened in disbelief, and Belle grew more exhilarated seeing the terror on my face. I glared at her with bitter resentment. My brother and his wife treated you so well. How could you betray them like this? Belle stuffed a rag into my brother's mouth and stabbed him in the thigh. He turned red with pain. Belle sniffed the blood on the blade obsessively. The scent, it's absolutely intoxicating. Don't worry. Your family of 3 won't be separated. I'll send you all to the afterlife together. The window suddenly shattered, and armed police officers leaped inside with lightning speed. Belle and that man were so arrogant and completely off guard that they were quickly subdued by the armed police. My sister-in-law has now become a complete vegetable, unconscious and unresponsive. My brother lost a leg and has become utterly sinister. Belle was exposed as that dwarf serial killer, with 2 men consistently aiding her behind the scenes. One was a plastic surgeon who got arrested. The other was the surgeon's cousin. Both were infatuated with him. They had been brainwashed by Belle for so long that they followed his every command. After Belle's appearance was exposed, the surgeon performed plastic surgery on him to help him evade investigation. After the scandal broke, the lawyer contacted me and I inherited all of my parents' estate. That's when I found out my brother wasn't biologically related to me and my parents had adopted him because they were afraid I'd be lonely. My parents worked in high-risk professions, and, fearing they might leave me one day, had arranged all this in advance. If my brother treated me well, he'd never want for anything in life. Otherwise, the lawyer would execute a different will. All of Felix's belongings were thrown out of my villa. He called me countless times, but I blocked his number immediately. 3 months later, Yolanda woke up and her first act was to divorce Felix. All the wounds on Yolanda's body were inflicted by Felix, who nearly killed her to save his own life. Felix was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, forever confined behind bars for the rest of his days. Yolanda was left permanently disabled, bedridden for life. The revelation of Felix's infertility completely shattered her. She had been kept in the dark by him all along. Later, I went to visit Felix. He had been tortured beyond recognition in prison. He begged me through tears, "Little sister, we've been close for over a decade. How could you treat me like this?" He showed me the scars on his body, trying to appeal to my sympathy. I watched his performance coldly. "In your dream, weren't you quite happy after I died? Must have been fun squandering my parents' money." He looked up in disbelief. "How do you know? You're not reincarnated. You're a ghost." Felix completely lost his mind, constantly muttering to himself that he was the male lead and claiming to be reborn. Later, I witnessed Damon's execution with my own eyes. Until his last breath, he showed no remorse, only regret for not having eliminated us sooner. A rotten seed will always be rotten. He has no conscience, no sense of right or wrong. Can someone without a conscience even be called human? I donated half of my parents' inheritance to an orphanage, hoping the children there would receive a proper education. After selling the villa, I joined a global tour group and encountered diverse landscapes and all kinds of people. When my parents' research was finally published, it brought significant benefits to our country. I felt immense pride for their achievements. Many people visit their graves spontaneously, held in deep admiration by countless individuals. I established a children's development center to provide comprehensive education, a true home for children even without parental care. Over the years, numerous volunteers have stepped forward, with growing numbers joining the Child Relief Initiative of their own accord. Our world continues to move toward a brighter future. Story 2. In a high-temperature apocalyptic world, I sent my cheating husband and his entire family to their doom. I learned in advance that a high-temperature apocalypse was approaching, yet my husband cheated on me at this critical moment. He brought his pregnant mistress into our home and, together with his parents, drove me and my daughter out. Since he pushed me to the edge of despair, I won't let him have an easy time either. I concealed the information about the apocalypse, decisively got a divorce, and fled. I really want to see how this newly formed family can still act arrogantly in the face of life and death. 01. In the office, I frowned as I looked at the blazing sun outside the window. Recently, the weather had been extremely abnormal. It was already past 5 o'clock, but the sunlight was still as scorching as at noon. I sent a message to my husband, asking him to pick me up after work. Just the thought of squeezing onto the subway in such heat was unbearable, as it was nearly time to get off work. A message suddenly popped up on Instagram. "Liana, a high-temperature apocalypse is coming. Don't go out recently. Stock up on supplies and wait for me to contact you." It was from my best friend, Daisy. She worked in a research institute and had been conducting explorations in the desert for the past 6 months. She never said anything without solid evidence, so she must have discovered something. My heart was pounding rapidly. I replied to Daisy, reassuring her not to worry, and then urged her to take care of herself. After that, I packed my things in a hurry and left the company. Downstairs in the office building, Soren's car was already waiting there. I stepped forward and tapped on the car window. He was so startled that it took him a long time to roll down the window. "Honey, why did you get off work so early?" I stood there, stunned. I couldn't ignore Soren's subtle movement of hiding his phone just now. If I wasn't mistaken, he was looking at Instagram. Who was he chatting with that he was so afraid of me seeing? Out of a woman's keen intuition, I immediately sensed that something was amiss. I had originally intended to mention the high-temperature warning, but I pushed it to the back of my mind. Throughout the journey, I kept observing Soren's expression. However, apart from that momentary look of panic, he showed no other abnormalities, so I had to pretend as if nothing had happened. When it was finally evening and Soren had fallen asleep, I took his phone and unlocked it with his fingerprint. I opened Instagram and indeed found something abnormal. Among the chat boxes with his colleagues, there was a cartoon avatar that stood out like a sore thumb. I clicked on it and scrolled up. Almost all of the conversations were explicit flirtatious messages. I had always respected Soren's privacy and would never look at his phone without his consent. That's why he didn't even bother to delete the chat records. At this moment, a mix of sadness and resentment welled up inside me. I couldn't help but feel the urge to drag Soren up and slap him hard across the face, but I knew I couldn't. Things had reached this point, and I couldn't act on impulse. I had to fight for the greatest possible benefits for myself and my daughter. More importantly, with the high-temperature apocalypse looming, the cracks in our marriage paled in comparison to the matter of survival. The top priority was to find a way to stay alive. I tightly clenched Soren's phone in my hand, and a terrifying thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Why should I tell him about the apocalypse? He had betrayed me, and shouldn't he pay the price for that? 02. The next day, while it wasn't too hot in the morning, I got up and went straight to my parents' house. Both Soren and I were extremely busy with our work, so our daughter was mostly taken care of by my parents. We only picked her up and brought her home during our days off. As soon as I entered the door, my daughter, a small and cute figure, rushed towards me and hugged my thigh. She said in a sweet, childish voice, "Mom, you haven't come to see me for 6 days this time. I'm angry." I gently rubbed her fluffy little head and apologized softly. "I'm sorry, Sage. Mom has been really busy recently. How about Mom stays with you every day in a few days?" "Okay, actually, I'm not really angry with you, Mom. I was just teasing you," looking at my daughter's well-behaved and sensible appearance. A pang of sadness shot through my heart. She was still so young. How could I let her bear the fact that our family was on the verge of breaking apart? "Where's Dad? Why didn't he come?" "Dad is at work. He'll come to see you in a few days." My daughter was very attached to Soren, so I could only fob her off with that answer and asked her to play with her toys to distract her. "It's been extremely hot these days, Liana. I think you should take Sage back home. The air conditioner here is old and worn out, and the child can't stand the heat." My mother was busy in the kitchen and kept chattering. I quickly asked her to stop what she was doing and called my father out as well. After they sat down, I showed them Daisy's message and informed them about the impending apocalypse. At first, they thought I was joking. After all, such a ridiculous thing had never happened to anyone before, but seeing my serious expression, the old couple finally took it seriously. "So, what should we do now?" my father asked with a worried look on his face. I handed him a list that briefly noted down some essential supplies, mainly purified water and some high-temperature resistant and non-perishable foods. "Dad, it's best if you go out to buy these supplies at night. We can't be 100% sure about this information, so don't tell anyone about it. If outsiders ask, just say that it's too hot to take Sage out, so you're buying more food. I've made an appointment for a new air conditioner to be installed tomorrow. Mom, remember to call me in advance. Sage can stay here for now, and I'll move here later." These were just some things that came to my mind temporarily. To truly deal with the apocalypse, there were still many more things to prepare. I tried my best to explain all kinds of situations, and my father quickly nodded in agreement. "What about Soren? What will he do when you move here?" My mother suddenly mentioned Soren. I glanced at my daughter to make sure she couldn't hear us, and then I confessed that Soren had cheated on me. As soon as my father heard this, he slapped the table and shouted angrily, "This bastard, what did he promise us back then?" My mother was also very angry. "Then why are you still going back? Just let him fend for himself." I had thought about that, but although Soren had cheated, his attitude towards our daughter was still unclear. What if he had the intention of fighting for the custody of our daughter? Then things would become very troublesome. So, before I could settle my daughter and ensure everything was foolproof, I couldn't let him notice anything unusual. After soothing my parents, I got in the car and prepared to go home. When I came in the morning, the heat was still bearable, but now, it was the hottest time of the day. As soon as I stepped out of the unit door, a wave of intense heat hit me, and my skin almost immediately turned red. On the way back, a large section of the concrete road had cracked and burst. I had to take a detour to get home in 03. When I entered the house, I found that Soren wasn't at work, and my in-laws were also there. As soon as Soren saw me, he came up and complained, "Honey, you drove the car away. How am I supposed to go to work now?" I ignored him and continued to change my shoes without looking up. "The car isn't yours alone. I can drive it if I want to." My tone was unfriendly, and Soren was taken aback for a moment. Just as he was about to say something, my mother-in-law interrupted. "How can you talk like that? Soren is the boss. Driving is important for his image. You're just a lowly employee. What are you showing off for? From now on, don't even think about touching this car." She had always been unreasonable. In the past, for Soren's sake, I didn't want to argue with her, but now, I had nothing to hold back. "I bought this car. I can drive it whenever I want. It's none of your business to comment here." Soren did run a company, but ever since he started his business, he had lost more money than he had earned. The house and car at home were basically purchased by me. She still thought her son was a big shot. My words once again touched Soren's fragile self-esteem, and his face darkened. "Is this how you talk to your elders? Do you have any manners? Could a person with good manners deal with his overbearing and shrewish mother?" I retorted without mercy. "If you don't like the way I talk, then don't let her come here. It's so hot. My parents couldn't stay in their hometown at all. What's wrong with me bringing them here to take care of them?" For a few days, I looked at him suspiciously. Since when had Soren become so filial? Although he was always good at pretending, after being married to him for so long, I knew his true nature well. He might say nice things, but in fact, he was extremely annoyed with his mother. It was obvious that a simple air conditioner could solve the problem. Why did he go to so much trouble to bring his parents here and cause trouble for himself? I didn't believe he was being so kind-hearted. Soren was Still making excuses when my in-laws couldn't sit still any longer, my father-in-law gave Soren a meaningful look. All right, she'll have to know about this sooner or later. There's no way to hide it. Just tell your wife the truth directly. That's right, she really thinks our family can't function without her, my mother-in-law chimed in, not forgetting to belittle me with her words. Soren looked at me hesitantly and couldn't bring himself to speak. Seeing this, my father-in-law slapped him hard on the back and spoke on his behalf. Soren has someone else outside. She's pregnant. You should make way quickly. Get the divorce settled before the child is born. Soren lowered his head and acquiesced to what his father had said. I gritted my teeth and stared hatefully at this family of three, wondering how they could say such shameless things with such a calm conscience. Soren, are you still human? I clenched my fists tightly, afraid that I might not be able to hold back from going up and tearing his face apart. I'm sorry, Liana, she's carrying my child. I can't let the child be born without a father. Although there was still a hint of guilt on Soren's face, the words he said were completely heartless. I could no longer suppress the anger in my heart and raised my hand to slap him hard. How can you say such a thing? Isn't Sage your child? Soren's face instantly turned red. My mother-in-law suddenly pushed me away and stroked his face with a look of heartache. How dare you hit him, after being married for 7 years? You only gave our family a useless daughter. My son should have kicked you out long ago. I'm warning you, Felicity is carrying a boy. If you know what's good for you, get out of here by yourself. Now I understood why my father-in-law and mother-in-law were so arrogant. It was because they finally had the grandson they had always dreamed of. Their obsession was so deep. I wondered if there was really a family fortune or title to inherit. Soren, you said that having only Sage in our life was enough for you, and you never cared whether it was a boy or a girl. Our family has had only one son in each generation for 3 generations. I can't let the family line end with me. I looked at Soren's hypocritical appearance, and memories in my mind kept flashing back. How could such a futile and ignorant man pretend for so many years with a clear conscience? I no longer had any hope for him and showed my bottom line. Divorce is okay. Since you cheated first, you must leave the house. With nothing, absolutely not. Almost as soon as I finished speaking, Soren refused. My mother-in-law was even more insistent. Why, we paid the down payment for the house. What a ridiculous dream you have. That small down payment was nothing compared to the full payment. How could she have the nerve to mention it? Either you leave the house with nothing, or we won't get a divorce. Your grandson will be an illegitimate child who can never see the light of day for the rest of his life. After saying that, I turned around and went back to my room, ignoring the curses of my mother-in-law behind me. 04. After closing the door and calming myself down, I started to prepare the necessary supplies. I didn't know how long this heat wave would last, and it would be very troublesome to rely only on my parents and me driving around to buy things. I directly contacted a wholesale market and asked them to deliver the goods to my home. I racked my brains and browsed through various materials on the internet. Finally, I made a list and sent it over. Most of the food items were storable dry goods and vegetables, such as 200 g of flour, 200 g of rice, 200 g of millet, 50 g of potatoes, 50 g of radishes, 100 g of dried green vegetables, as well as 100 boxes of instant noodles, various self-heating hot pots, and compressed biscuits. As long as they had the items available, I basically ordered at least 100 portions of each. More importantly, for water, I directly purchased 500 barrels of mineral water and 100 boxes of various energy-boosting drinks. Sage was still young, unlike adults who just needed to be full. Her nutrition also needed to be ensured, so I added 100 g of beef and mutton, 200 cans of various types of meat, and 100 each of chickens, ducks, and geese. Considering the storage of these supplies, I ordered 2 large freezers. At that time, I would throw out all the useless furniture in my parents' house and use the living room to store the supplies. Cooling couldn't be achieved without electricity. My father had experience in this regard. I sent him a message and quickly received a reply. He managed to get connections to buy a diesel generator and also purchase solar panels, planning to install them himself. Then I bought a batch of medicines and various cleaning and toiletries. It was already dark by the time I finally finished everything, and I fell asleep in a daze. When I opened my eyes again, I was woken up by the noisy voices in the living room. When I went out to take a look, besides my in-laws, there was an unfamiliar woman in the living room. There was a pile of fruits in front of her. Usually, my mother-in-law would always find fault when I bought these fruits, but now she was being surprisingly generous. Felicity, get more nutrition. The baby will be healthier in the future. She gently stroked the woman's belly and earnestly advised her. I immediately understood. This woman was Soren's mistress. I Never expected them to be so heartless. Soren and I hadn't divorced yet, and they actually brought the mistress into our house. A surge of anger welled up inside me. I directly rushed over and overturned the fruits on the table, shouting at them, "Who allowed you to bring someone in here casually? Get out of here right now." The woman seemed to be extremely frightened by me. She shrank back towards my mother-in-law and called her mom in a low voice. She wasn't even married to Soren yet, but she was calling so affectionately. The more I heard it, the more disgusted I felt. I trembled with anger and grabbed her, dragging her towards the door. My mother-in-law was like a mother hen protecting her chicks, shielding the woman behind her. "You little bitch. How dare you touch my grandson? I'll fight you to the death. This is my son's house. I can let whoever I want in." I didn't pay much attention to her old age. I pushed her away and pulled the woman towards the door. Suddenly, the woman's crying and my mother-in-law's scolding mixed together, and the scene became completely chaotic. My father-in-law took the opportunity to call Soren, and he quickly rushed back home. After Soren entered the door, he directly pulled me away. He stood in front of me, seemingly protecting the woman behind him. "Juliana, have you had enough?" There was anger on his face, and his tone was cold and stern. He was blaming me for another woman. The anger in my chest was boiling over. I was so angry that my whole body was shaking. "Soren, we're not divorced yet. Do you still have any sense of shame?" By now, our relationship had completely broken down. The last bit of Soren's guilt had also vanished. He directly revealed his true intentions. "Felicity is carrying my child. It's so hot now. I can't leave her alone. I've made up my mind. Let's get a divorce." He finally said the word divorce himself. No. The last trace of my attachment to him was gone. I replied expressionlessly. I said, "If you leave the house with nothing, I'll agree to the divorce." "Absolutely not. I paid the down payment for the house. After marriage, it was jointly repaid. According to the shares, the house should be mine. Even if you want to sue, I'll win the case." He spoke with full confidence, as if he had rehearsed these words thousands of times in his mind. "What about Sage? I won't fight you for Sage's custody." I really couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my hand and slapped him, shouting furiously, "You mean to drive me and Sage out, in such scorching heat? Where do you expect us to go? I think you truly intend to kill us." My eyebrows twitched. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. I suddenly realized that I had been blinded by anger. At this moment, my parents and daughter were anxiously waiting for me to make arrangements, yet I was only tangled with Soren. The top priority was to find a place to stay. I had only focused on buying supplies. My parents' small house simply couldn't accommodate so many things. Moreover, people's hearts were unpredictable. In the face of a major disaster, with so many supplies, we would surely become a target. The old iron door of my parents' house could be kicked open by me with just 1 foot. At that time, the danger would only double. Only then did I react. There were still so many loopholes in my plan. I'm not that capable. I can't take care of everyone right now. All I want is for Felicity's child to be born safely. Soren looked at me coldly. I lost my temper and stopped arguing with him. I agreed to the divorce. I don't want the house. All the savings at home must be given to me, and I also want the car. The house had just paid off the mortgage this year. The total savings and the car were less than 1 million at most. No matter how you looked at it, I was at a great loss. Soren quickly nodded in agreement. We immediately drew up a divorce agreement on the spot. Soren proposed that I could only transfer all the property after notarization at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. To avoid disputes, I agreed to his request to 05. After signing the agreement, I rushed to the suburbs overnight and rented a villa in the mountains. The temperature here was much lower than in the city, and there was mountain spring water on the mountain, making it the most suitable place for summer escape. I pretended that I was renting it as a warehouse. The real estate agent specifically found me one with a basement. In the future, the supplies could be placed there, which would be much safer. More importantly, the landlord was abroad and had entrusted the rental matters to the agent entirely. As long as I signed the contract, I could move in immediately. I signed the lease for the house right away. After the payment was received, the agent gave me the keys on the spot. Then I contacted the customer service of the wholesale market and sent them the address of the villa. I paid double the freight, and they promised to start preparing the goods as soon as it was dawn. By the time I finished all these things and rushed back to the city, it was already dawn. According to the agreement, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Soren still had some affection for our daughter. I picked her up on the way to prevent Soren from going back on his word. Although I didn't want my daughter to face the unpleasantness between us directly, the situation was urgent, and I had no choice, as expected. After the notarization, Soren was still reluctant. It was only when he saw Sage that he readily handed over the 200,000 yuan in his hand. When we were parting, Soren was hugging his new lover. The woman showed off in front of the child. Honey, Mom and Dad have reserved a table at the restaurant and said they want to celebrate properly. Let's go quickly. Our daughter cried heart-rendingly, but Soren still didn't look back. I didn't watch her closely for a moment, and she ran towards Soren. She ran very fast when she was close to Soren, probably because he was afraid she would hurt Felicity. He actually pushed our daughter away. The small body fell down on the curb at once, and blood immediately oozed from her knee. I picked her up, but Soren's attention was only on that woman. Sage hadn't even gotten close to her. I clenched my fists and stared fixedly at the backs of the two of them. I didn't want to go to extremes, but they forced me to. I sent my daughter home, then turned around and went to Soren's house. I removed all the removable parts from the air conditioner and the refrigerator. Soon, the equipment stopped working. I took away all the drinking water in the house, opened the windows to let the heat in, and the house immediately became as hot as a furnace. Let them enjoy it. I went home in a hurry, picked up my parents, and rushed to the villa. They felt sorry for me because they knew I hadn't slept all night. My father offered to drive and let me catch up on my sleep. I fell asleep feeling at ease. When I woke up, my father had driven the car to the building materials market and bought various materials such as stones, concrete, and steel bars. He said that people's hearts were unpredictable, and we had to ensure our safety. In addition, my father also bought a lot of flame retardant and heat insulating materials. He also bought a lot of daily necessities such as wires, faucets, water pipes, various small items, and maintenance tools. I had no knowledge of these things and didn't know how to use them at all. Fortunately, with my father around, I felt much more at ease. My father's words reminded me. I immediately placed an order online for several stun guns and self-defense devices and asked them to be delivered to our home immediately. When we arrived at the villa, the things I ordered had already arrived. The workers were unloading the goods. I didn't dare to reveal the basement, so I only asked them to put the things in the yard. The delivery man asked curiously, "Miss, you've got so many things, when will you be able to sell them all? Aren't you afraid they'll expire?" I had to make up an excuse. I'm a live streamer selling goods. These things will be shipped out tomorrow. You young people are really amazing. Unlike us, we can only do manual labor. The man was sweating profusely from the heat, but he still smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I felt really sorry for him. After the unloading was done, I gave him triple the handling fee and some extra tips. The man kept refusing, but I insisted that he take it. "Brother, it's really hot now. There have been a lot of accidents in your line of work. Stay at home and rest for a while before coming out again. I'm not a saint. I can't save everyone. This is all I can do." After the man left, I went to check around. There had been a plan to build a resort here before, so most people bought the villas with the intention of investment. The occupancy rate was not high. This was also convenient for our actions, my parents, and I quickly moved the things to the basement. By the time we finished these, the generator, solar panels, and building materials my father bought had also arrived. By the time all these were installed, it was already evening. My mother and I were so tired that we collapsed on the sofa. While my father was still busy, he connected the circuit to the basement, powered on the freezers and the air conditioner, installed the solar panels, and reinforced the windows and doors with steel bars and cement. Looking at his masterpiece, my father was very satisfied. Up to this point, everything seemed to be foolproof. My mother and I contacted some relatives and friends, saying that we had fallen ill due to the heat and advising them to stay at home and rest as much as possible and not go out. We had done all we could, and the rest was up to fate. 06. We hadn't been here for a few days when the high temperature weather erupted fully. Governments in various places successively announced the suspension of work and school. In many places, the roads had burst, and the entire urban traffic was paralyzed. Fortunately, the water and electricity systems were still operating normally. People stayed at home and could still hold on for the time being. Our family stayed in the basement. My father was chopping stuffing and pickling pickles. Since the capacity of the freezer was limited, my mother was also busy sorting out the things for fear that they would go bad. At this time, my phone received a message reminding me to update the system. Then I remembered that we had installed a monitor at home for Sage's sake. I had done so much. How could I not see for myself what would happen to Soren's family? I couldn't wait to open the monitor and found that all 4 members of Soren's family were in the living room. Felicity was lying on the sofa, with a basin of ice beside her. My mother-in-law was fanning by hand, directing all the cool air towards Felicity, while she herself was sweating profusely. Even so, Felicity was still not satisfied and Complained to Soren. Soren, have you found someone to fix the air conditioner yet? I'm almost dying of heat. You can't even get the air conditioner fixed. What's the use of being with you? These words made Soren angry, and he retorted, can you stop complaining? They have a lot of orders. What can I do? Besides, is it really that hot? Why can we all tolerate it, but you can't? Felicity was immediately unhappy when she heard this. She covered her face and started crying. What did you promise me? Before, you said you would take good care of me and the baby when you brought me here. No, I just want to use the air conditioner, and you're not willing. I'm carrying your son. If it really doesn't work, I'll abort the baby. These words hit my mother-in-law's heart. She quickly comforted Felicity. Don't abort the baby, Felicity. Soren is just in a hurry. Calm down. It's not good for the baby. Then she turned to Soren and ordered, if there's no air conditioner, go borrow some ice from the neighbors again. Hurry up. Soren had to call the neighbor. I don't know how many times this was the time to borrow things. The other side simply and straightforwardly refused. Brother Wine, my wife is pregnant. Please be accommodating. Soren pleaded humbly. It's not that I don't want to help. Our refrigerator is not big either. Every time I freeze a basin of ice for you, the things in my house are going bad. There's really no way. The neighbor's reply was full of helplessness. Soren had to give up. Suddenly, my mother-in-law snatched the phone. Who are you fooling? If there's no space in the freezer, you can put it in the refrigerator. Do you think we're stupid and trying to deceive us? My mother-in-law had always been unreasonable. Her words made the neighbor very angry. How can you talk like that? I'm kind enough to lend you things, and I'm wrong. You city people are so stingy. You're so reluctant to lend a basin of ice. You have no conscience. Your whole family will be roasted to death sooner or later. Her eyes rolled, and she suddenly thought of something. By the way, my daughter-in-law got sick after using your ice. You'd better send a new basin of ice over, or we'll call 110 to arrest you. You're crazy. The neighbor directly hung up the phone. My mother-in-law held the phone triumphantly. Don't worry, they don't dare not to come. Unfortunately, she miscalculated. Not only did they dare not come, but they also sent the call recording to the homeowners group. Now Soren became famous. Everyone in the group started to criticize him and said that they would never send anything to his house. Soren cared about his face and left the group on his own. Looking at the chat records in the group, I felt a sense of pleasure in my heart. Soren's mother was really something. She didn't leave any leeway for this family at all. 07. The temperature in the city was getting higher and higher. Many people moved to the suburbs. In just a few days, the surrounding villas were all occupied. It was not convenient to go shopping here, so the neighbors had to borrow some supplies from each other. To avoid attracting attention, we also joined the ranks of borrowing things. However, whenever someone lent something to us, we would return it double. Over time, everyone thought we were just here to escape the heat, and no one became suspicious. The weather in the city had reached a level that humans could no longer tolerate. People tried artificial rainfall, but it was just a drop in the bucket. Under the high-temperature disaster, the death toll was rising sharply. The government dispatched the armed police to maintain order and strictly restricted residents from going out. Everyone could only live on the supplies distributed by the government at home, and for a while, people were in a state of panic. Fortunately, because of Daisy's early warning, I had a small haven in this chaos. I tried to contact Daisy, but I never received a reply. At this time, Soren took the initiative to call me for a video. After I answered, his embarrassed face appeared on the screen. His hair was messy and stuck to his forehead, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. When my daughter heard his voice, she rushed over excitedly. Dad, I miss you so much. When will you come to see me? My daughter had completely forgotten about the injury she suffered last time. Soren's face was very unnatural. After a long time, he replied in a low voice, Dad misses you too. Where are you now? We're in a super big villa. Mom bought me a lot of delicious food. I was afraid that my daughter would reveal the fact that we had stocked up on supplies, so I quickly interrupted. What do you want to talk about? My tone was cold and tough. Soren was obviously at a loss and stammered. I just want to see if you and the daughter are doing well. Liana, have you moved? My mother is sick, so we found a place to recuperate. You've seen that Sage is fine. Don't bother us if there's nothing important. I sent my daughter away and mercilessly issued an expulsion order. Suddenly, Soren's emotions broke down. He lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face like a broken string of beads. Liana, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have betrayed you. These days, I've been really suffering. Give me an address. Let me come and take care of you. Okay. I looked at his crying face and felt no emotion in my heart. Stop pretending. Soren, what kind of face did you Show when you drove us out, just stay with your son and don't disgust me. After hanging up the phone, I directly blocked all his contact information. Soren was so broken-hearted, something must have happened again. I couldn't help but want to see the good play. I opened the monitor and sure enough, I found that their family was in a big mess. Felicity, taking advantage of her pregnancy, had monopolized the supplies distributed by the government. Soren and his father objected, but were stopped by my mother-in-law's tricks of crying, making a scene, and threatening to commit suicide. In her heart, her grandson was more important than anything else, so, after a chaotic negotiation, Soren, his father, and his mother shared one share of the supplies, while Felicity had 3 shares. Although I really hated this mistress, I had to admit that her actions made me very happy. Soren's father was overbearing and dictatorial, and his mother was unreasonable. I had endured so much anger from them, it seemed that only a more ruthless person could deal with them. 08. While Soren's side was in chaos, I also faced a new problem. This place was too remote, and the infrastructure was not perfect. After a few days, both water and electricity were cut off. My father's generator and solar panels finally came in handy. Although it was not as good as the municipal power supply, it was enough for our family of 4. We didn't know when the temperature would drop. The 2 large freezers at home were still running, so we didn't dare to be too extravagant. Usually, we tried not to turn on the air conditioner. Although adults could endure it, children had a higher body temperature. Not turning on the air conditioner was really suffering for them. My daughter's face was flushed red from the heat, but she never cried or fussed. Her sensible appearance made my mother burst into tears. Seeing this, my father built a small hut for her with waste wooden boards and put a small basin of ice in it. Only then did the little girl feel better. The lack of water and electricity was not the most terrifying thing. The terrifying thing was that as the supplies became scarce, there were cases of theft and even robbery of supplies in the community. To avoid accidents, my father sealed the original door of the basement with cement, moved some furniture and placed it on top, and opened a small door under the kitchen cabinet. Among these villas, only a few had basements. When the thieves came, they couldn't find the door of the basement, and without thinking too much, they took the things we put in the kitchen and ran away. Later, several more groups of people came. My father and I picked up axes and stun guns and confronted them directly. Seeing that we were not easy to mess with and there were not many supplies in our house, they left in disgrace. Only then did I feel relieved. When I opened the monitor of Soren's place again, I couldn't believe my eyes. Soren and his parents were sitting at the dining table, dividing the meager supplies, while Felicity was tied up in the corner with a rope, and her mouth was stuffed with a rag. She looked at the 3 of them resentfully, and there were continuous whimpers in her mouth. My father-in-law finished eating first, walked up to Felicity, kicked her, and then went to the sofa to close his eyes and rest. What was going on? This woman was carrying the precious grandson. Wasn't she supposed to be extremely precious? My father-in-law used all his strength in that kick, causing Felicity to let out a heart-rending scream and roll on the ground. My mother-in-law yanked her up and slapped her twice in the face, viciously saying, "You little slut, you've been lying to us for so many days. If it wasn't for the fact that we wanted to get more supplies through you, I would have thrown you off the building long ago." The more she spoke, the angrier she got. She grabbed Felicity's hair and smashed her head against the wall until it was bloody and bruised. Before she finally stopped. From her constant curses, I finally understood the whole story. It turned out that Felicity wasn't actually pregnant. A few days ago, she secretly changed her sanitary napkin and was caught red-handed by my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law had given most of the supplies to Felicity because of the so-called grandson. After enduring hunger and heat for so many days, she went crazy when she found out she was being deceived. My mother-in-law was so angry that her face was red and her neck was thick, but I just wanted to clap my hands in front of the screen and cheer. This old woman was so obsessed with having a grandson. On Sage's last birthday, she had heard some secret recipe that said feeding a special medicine to the firstborn would ensure a son for the second child. She sent me away and secretly tried to feed Sage the medicine. Fortunately, the medicine was extremely bitter, and Sage cried and refused to drink it. In the end, she knocked the bowl and escaped the disaster. In the evening, Sage kept murmuring that Grandma made her drink a very bitter soup. I found the medicine dregs in the kitchen. When I confronted my mother-in-law face to face, she was still arrogant and scolded me for being useless, saying that I couldn't give birth to a son. I was so angry that I asked Soren to send her back to her hometown immediately and entrusted Sage to my parents' care. Just to be on the safe side, I also installed monitors in hidden corners of the house. Thinking about the past, I gritted my teeth with hatred. So now, no matter how miserable my mother-in-law was, I didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for her. Felicity was beaten to the verge of death by my mother-in-law. She lay on the ground with her eyes closed, her body covered in old and new scars. It was obvious that she had been abused for several days. After beating Felicity, My mother-in-law still wasn't satisfied. She sat on the ground, crying and wailing. What kind of sin have I committed? First, I got rid of that unlucky woman, and then I met you, a liar. Why is it so hard for me to have a grandson? I should have kept that woman surnamed Joe. This old woman was still thinking about her grandson. She was really hopeless. Soren watched his mother crying and making a scene coldly. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and slapped the table, roaring, "Shut up. Can you stop making such a fuss?" My father-in-law also told her impatiently to be quiet, and then she finally stopped. Felicity opened her eyes wide, staring at the three of them with a sinister look, as if she wanted to tear them to pieces. I enlarged the screen and saw that her hands were moving constantly behind her back, as if she was using a blade to saw through the rope. Soren and the others had abused Felicity so much. Once she got free, she would definitely take revenge on them in the most cruel way. I was really looking forward to that day. 09 Finally, her chance came. One night, when it was dead quiet, she sawed through the rope and secretly put rat poison from the cupboard into the water. Soren and the others had no idea. They just thought the water had gone bad due to the high temperature and forced themselves to drink it. My father-in-law died on the spot. Soren and my mother-in-law, who had drunk less, were rolling on the ground, clutching their stomachs. Seeing this, Felicity laughed maniacally. She tied up my mother-in-law and Soren, rummaged through the bedroom and found a leather belt. She lashed at the two of them one after another, cursing as she did so. "You damned scumbag, what did you promise me before? You said you loved me truly and would marry me after getting rid of your wife. Bullshit, you just wanted to trick me into having a baby. Bastard, you deserve to be childless. And you, old hag, how dare you hit me? My own mother has never hit me since I was a child. Remember how you hit me? I'm going to pay you back tenfold today." The more she spoke, the more excited she became, and the force of her blows kept increasing. Soon, Soren and my mother-in-law were covered in blood. Felicity still wasn't satisfied. She took alcohol and disinfectant and poured them onto the two's wounds. Heart-rending screams came from the phone. Suddenly, the screen went black. It should be that the power went out in the city. I calmed my breathing, recalling the terrifying scene just now. Felicity's mental state must have been completely broken by the torture. Soren and his mother were probably going to have a really dark time. I couldn't pay attention to Soren and the other situation anymore. I could only pass the time by browsing my phone every day. On the webpage, the number of deaths kept increasing. The outside temperature had reached a level where ordinary people couldn't move around. Only firefighters and police officers, relying on special equipment, were active on the front lines of disaster relief. I couldn't do much, so I could only pray for their safety. Soon, the signal was also cut off, and I couldn't receive any news from the outside world. I could only quietly wait for this high-temperature disaster to end. Our family of three completely moved into the basement. To soothe our emotions, my mother tried various ways to cook different meals. My father also made a lot of small gadgets for my daughter. We leaned on each other, and no matter how difficult things were, we could get through them. 3 months later, a heavy rain finally came. It rained continuously for 3 days, and the temperature in the whole city dropped. Although it was still the temperature of midsummer, people could finally move around outdoors. When I walked out of the basement, the dazzling sunlight made it hard for me to open my eyes. I took a while to adapt before I could see the scenery outside. The flowers and plants in the yard had long since withered, and the ground was cracked with seam after seam. Everything had lost its vitality, but people were cheering and celebrating their new life. 10. After a month of restoration, the city resumed its operation, and I received a call from the police station. They told me that when the rescue team arrived at my house, there was only a crazy woman and 3 piles of white bones. After identification, the 3 piles of white bones were exactly Soren and his parents. Felicity, having lived with the 3 corpses for several months, was so scared that she went insane and was sent to a mental hospital. Soren and I hadn't received the divorce certificate yet. Nominally, we were still husband and wife, so it was up to me to handle the aftermath. I entrusted all these matters to the funeral home and didn't inquire about them anymore. Subsequently, I sold the house at home. After finding the real estate agent, I renewed the lease of the villa for a few more months. I called in a decoration team and reinforced the house inside and out. My parents wanted to move the things in the basement upstairs, but I stopped them. Mom and Dad, I think we still need to stock up on some more things. A few days ago, Daisy sent a picture that was hard to understand, and then there was no more news. I hoped that everything I did wasn't a waste of effort. Story 2. On the night after the college entrance examination, my father asked me to accompany his boss. When my mother found out, she didn't say a word and killed my father with a knife. The day my mother was sent to prison, I bound the killing system. Ding. Every Time the host comes into contact with a murderer, they can randomly obtain one of the murderer's skills. A week later, the end of the world arrived. I went on a killing spree in the prison and won. Just as I crossed the prison gate, a crackling sound of electricity came to my ears. Ding! Congratulations to the host for binding the killing system. Every time you come into contact with a murderer, you can permanently obtain a randomly selected skill. Upon hearing this, I gradually slowed down my steps. The guard in front of me saw that I had stopped and turned back to urge me. Why aren't you moving? Weren't you going to see your mother? I silently followed him. In my heart, I listened to the system's voice. The end of the world will arrive in a week. Please make preparations in advance. After the end of the world begins, the system will issue the first task. My mind began to calculate rapidly. The place with the most murderers is naturally the prison. If what the system said is true, then after the end of the world arrives, the prison will become the safest place for me, too. Amber, after today, just pretend you don't have a mother like me. My mother sat opposite me through the glass, looking haggard. Her voice came through the phone, a bit choked up. Just as I was about to say something, the system's voice suddenly rang in my ears. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining Camilla's skill, needle threading. The tiny embroidery needle can often only penetrate coarse linen and is easily ignored by people, but in your hands, it can hit the enemy with 100% accuracy. A friendly reminder, when using this skill on men, the damage will increase by 10. I was taken aback when I heard this. Have I obtained my mother's skill? Before she was imprisoned, my mother was a gentle and quiet housewife, and her skill with embroidery needles was often praised by those around her. And this skill from her turned out to be a highly offensive ability. 3. Amber, the voice came through the phone. I came back to my senses and saw the worried look on my mother's face across the glass. She probably thought I was hurt by her words. The way I was checking the skill in the system just now probably looked like I was possessed by something to the people outside. I was stiff all over and my eyes were dull. I quickly comforted her. Mom, I'm fine. I just got a little distracted for a moment. I'll come again in a few days. This time, I will definitely be able to protect you. After saying that, I hung up the phone and left. When I reached the prison gate, I turned around and stared deeply at this prison. The 3-meter-high thick walls and the electric wires surrounded the prison airtight. When I came here, I just felt that these things were oppressive, but now, in my eyes, they are simply the best protection. For when I got home, there was still my father's blood on the ground. I sat on the sofa splattered with large patches of blood and flipped through the recent news. I couldn't find the slightest clue about the end of the world. But crises always come quietly. I tried to communicate with the system. What is the end of the world in 7 days? The system's cold voice came. Natural disasters and man-made disasters, and zombies surrounding the city. After hearing this, my face became serious. Dealing with zombies is already a headache, and there are actually natural disasters. At this moment, the phone on the table rang. After answering it, a shrill female voice immediately came. Ember, the court's judgment has come down. Your father's house will belong to me from now on. Hurry up and move out. Why don't you go and die with that murderer mother of yours? The one who called was my aunt. After my father died, she couldn't wait to pull some strings to make my mother and me leave the house with nothing. She had been eyeing our family's property for many years. After she finished speaking, she hung up the phone. 5. I looked around this retro small Western-style building. Every bit of it was left to my mother by my grandfather. My father came from a remote mountainous area. When my grandfather was kind enough to let him live in our house, he took advantage of my mother's young age and got her pregnant. My mother was a gentle and introverted person, but she was deceived by my father's honest appearance. After my grandfather passed away, my father immediately changed his attitude. Not only did he keep a mistress outside, but he also wanted me to accompany his boss for the sake of his career. Now, this place has become someone else's property. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. One day, I will take back everything I have lost. 6. I packed up what I could take and put it into the system grid, and exchanged the things that were of no use for cash. Most of the things exchanged for cash were bought by my father. When he lived here before, he liked to buy some flashy things. He called it having face. Looking at the several tons of food and hundreds of sets of clothes stored in the system backpack, I closed the door of the Western-style building with satisfaction. After the end of the world arrives, the house is the most useless thing. If my aunt wants it, let her have it. A house like this can't block the zombies at all. 7. On the early morning of the 7th day, I woke up on time. The sky outside the window was faintly dark red. Everyone didn't take the strange sky phenomenon seriously, because the weather forecast the night before had predicted that there would be an unprecedented heavy rain today. In the sky, the storm and thunder intertwined, but not a single drop of rain fell. It was like it was building up momentum, waiting for a complete outburst. Only I knew that the end of the world was really coming. When I arrived at the prison, the system's voice rang in my ears on time, now issuing the first task: successfully kill the first zombie. 8. The zombie virus came quietly. The infected person let out a roar and turned around to attack the iron door behind him. Some people still had a look of confusion from just waking up on their faces. They were bitten unexpectedly, and the next moment, their veins bulged, their whole bodies swelled up, and their eyes turned frighteningly red. The transformation happened rapidly in an instant. The screams gradually woke up this silent prison. Zombies are attracted by sound. The louder the sound, the more intense their reaction. While the zombies were attracted by the sound, I approached, estimated the safe distance, and stabbed a needle through the zombie's head. The system's voice rang in my ears. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing the first zombie. Reward obtained: 1 cruise ship, 5 sets of protective clothing. 9. Without time to think about why a cruise ship was awarded as a reward on land, I immediately put on the protective clothing. A blue light flashed. There was no change in my appearance, but a faint white light appeared on my skin, as if I was firmly protected by a layer of plastic film. Attention: the protective clothing is a one-time item and can be given as a gift. Usage time: 30 minutes. The needle threading skill had high damage, and I rushed into the interior of the prison all the way. The situation inside the prison was as I expected. Most of the prisoners quickly fought back after reacting and blocked the zombies outside. When they saw me jumping in through the window, a group of people immediately surrounded me tightly. Stop. She came in from the outside. She must have been bitten by a zombie. A group of muscular men surrounded me and looked me up and down. Brother, there doesn't seem to be any wound on her body. Behind them, a man said weakly. The tallest man at the front didn't relax his vigilance. The hot muzzle of the gun was firmly pressed against my forehead. I raised my hand, and my heart was pounding. 10. After finding that I seemed to be just a beautiful but useless person, the man put down the gun. You, go and stay over there. The man pointed to the room behind him. I obediently walked over. My fingers accidentally rubbed against the man's clothes corner. Just as I stepped into the entrance of the cell, the system's voice rang in my ears in time. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Xander's skill, overwhelming momentum. It is a Taoist inheritance, the mighty and righteous chi between heaven and earth. The original owner used it to split mountains and crush stones, and kill people invisibly. Now it's in your hands. Use it boldly. I immediately let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I succeeded. The contact range recognized by the system was extremely broad. It could be as big as exchanging names or as small as touching the same item at the same time, which would trigger it. 11. After Xander took over the prison, those who didn't obey were all killed. In the early days of the end of the world, the zombies' abilities were not strong. Feeling invincible, Xander began to act tyrannically in the prison with his men. I was one of the first people they targeted. At night, I was pushed into the room. In the room in front of me, besides me, there were also several young and beautiful female prisoners, and Xander was sitting on the bed, roughly choking a female prisoner's neck. Outside the door, a few of his subordinates were looking at the room with lust. Boss, can you let us brothers have a taste after you're done? Hearing this, Xander pushed away the woman who was almost out of breath. You have no ambition, I'll let you play with her. After saying that, he suddenly looked at me. I suddenly met his gaze and understood, saying, you want to play with me? 12. There was a hint of interest in Xander's eyes, and he ordered, come here. I didn't hesitate and stood still in front of Xander. He nodded his chin at the place where the female prisoner had lain and motioned for me to lie down. I didn't move and smiled at Xander while he was looking at me with great interest. I slapped him across the face without hesitation. A crisp slapping sound rang out in the room. In an instant, all sounds stopped. Everyone stared at me in a daze. The fat on Xander's face twitched, and his left cheek immediately swelled up. There was a flash of disbelief in his eyes, but I didn't wait for him to react. I kicked him hard in the groin with the skill overwhelming momentum. A howl immediately rang out in the room. Xander fell to the ground, his hands tightly covering his groin, and blood flowed out uncontrollably. I kicked Xander, who was lying on the ground moaning and screaming, flying away. After wiping the blood off my shoes, I chuckled. Just you still want to play with me. In the past few days, I had activated more than 20 skills one after another, and now, they were no match for me. The subordinates outside the door seemed to be awakened at this moment and looked at me with fear. 13. The stable situation in the prison immediately underwent a major reshuffle after I killed Xander. Many people took a fancy to my ability and wanted me to be the new leader. I had no interest in managing the prison, I just wanted to stay quietly with my mother until the end of the world. Why don't we cooperate to establish a safe zone? Someone suggested to me, looking very sincere. I had met this person, his name was Evan, and he was the only one who had dared to speak up for me behind Xander before. His character and courage were decent. Building a safe zone to protect my mother seemed like a good idea. I shook his outstretched hand. Sure, I have only one request. Protect my mother well. Evan agreed without hesitation. Before entering the prison, he was a talent, graduated from a top university in the country. He was very efficient, and with my help, the safe base took shape quickly. Just when I thought everything would be thriving, the system suddenly issued a new task: extreme survival warning. Please try your best to survive in this challenge. I immediately had a bad feeling. 14. My premonition soon came true. The heavy rain that had been building up in the sky for more than a month finally fell, like a faucet that had been turned on. The river burst its banks, the earth trembled, and mudslides broke out. In a trance, it gave people the illusion that everyone would die. The prison was located in a low-lying area and was quickly flooded. I immediately used the cruise ship that the system had given me early. The sudden appearance of the cruise ship on the spot didn't arouse anyone's suspicion. The things from the system, when brought into the real world, would automatically affect people's subconscious and seem reasonable. The system's cruise ship was very special. Not only was it large in space, but it also had a renewable power system, so there was no need to worry about water and electricity. After the people from the base came on board, they couldn't take their eyes off it when they saw this place. Autumn, I think I could stay here for the rest of my life. After Evan inspected the cruise ship, he said to me seriously. I immediately shattered his delusion. This cruise ship can only last for a month at most. And there is no food. The things produced by the system all had a shelf life, otherwise, I would have taken out the cruise ship long ago. 15. After others left, my mother quietly pulled me. Amber, Mom doesn't need to live in such a good room. Let those who have made high contributions live in it. Hearing this, I immediately held my mother's hand. Mom, if I can't even let you live in the best room, then what's the point of me running this base? My mother sighed. I didn't agree when you went out alone to kill zombies before. How can I let my child work hard outside while the parent does nothing? I shook my head. Mom, I just want to protect you. I will never forget that day in court. I sat below, watching the public opinion turn completely one-sided, watching the judge sentence without hesitation, and seeing the accusing and fearful looks people gave my mother. She was the murderer that people said deserved to die, but to me, she was just an angry mother who tried her best to protect her child. That was the most powerless moment in my life. 16. After settling everyone down, I looked up at the thick dark clouds and didn't let down my guard. Natural disasters could never be overcome so easily. The rain kept falling as if it would never stop. The water on the ground was rushing, and the water level kept rising. People who were caught in the rain all had fevers and colds one after another. There were all kinds of illnesses, both big and small. The depressed atmosphere on the ship continued to spread. Fortunately, the cruise ship sailed diligently for half a month and finally found a highland. As soon as the people on the ship landed, they couldn't wait to go and look for supplies. After half a month of consumption, the supplies on the ship were almost used up. I didn't go down to look for supplies. The supplies in my system backpack were still more than enough, and I wasn't as urgent as others. Moreover, my mother had a fever. 17. After a day, only a few people who went to look for supplies came back, and they were all injured. As soon as they came back, they immediately anxiously came to see me. Autumn, the people on the mountain not only robbed us of our supplies but also detained Evan. I asked, do you know the specific situation? Those people are very cunning. At first, they let us exchange supplies. Unexpectedly, after they found out that we had a cruise ship, they immediately changed their attitude and asked us to exchange the cruise ship for people. Seeing that, I was a bit hesitant. My mother pushed me. I'm fine. Go and take a look. Her eyes looking at me were gentle and firm. I nodded and turned to the people and said, you take me to have a look. When I went there, the people on the mountain seemed to know that I would come. They were holding weapons and blocking the entrance. A group of people looked at me arrogantly. Are you the owner of the cruise ship? The leading man looked at me, and a hint of disdain flashed in his eyes. I thought it was some powerful person. It turns out to be just a brash young girl. I didn't reply. My eyes swept over this group of people, and I found a familiar face among them. I looked at her, and my pupils shrank. I didn't expect you to still be alive. When I spoke, the person hiding behind the man finally stood out. 18. And my aunt's name was Autumn. Before the end of the world, she had married a somewhat wealthy upstart, but judging from the current situation, my uncle should have been ruthlessly abandoned. I Wasn't surprised by this at all. Autumn heard my words and leaned against the man's arms, adding fuel to the fire. Tobias, this little slut's mother killed my brother. Neither she nor her mother are good people. You have to teach them a good lesson for me. I didn't react much when I heard her words, but the man named Tobias immediately stared at me and said in an unfriendly tone, "You made my woman unhappy. Why don't you continue? Kneel down and apologize to her." I didn't move. The man suddenly strode towards me and reached out his big hand to grab my head. 19. I nimbly dodged the man and then slapped him on the back of his waist with a bang. The man was knocked to the ground by me. He seemed to be stunned for a moment. He tried to get up but was firmly stepped on by me. I glanced at Autumn and said in a somewhat casual tone, "Just in time, you're here. We can settle both our old and new scores together." I firmly stepped on the man's back with one foot and took out the silver needle from my pocket with the other hand. Several men who came closer with crowbars were instantly nailed through their tendons and fell to the ground. 20. Seeing a group of people lying in front of me, Autumn was stunned and exclaimed, "What are you doing?" After saying that, she seemed to regret it and took a few steps back, forcing a fake smile. "Ember, I didn't expect you to be so powerful now. If your father were alive in heaven, he would definitely be proud of you." I felt almost nauseous when I heard this and immediately lost the patience to listen. I fiercely choked the man's neck and dragged him up, asking, "Where are the people you imprisoned?" Autumn was still being hesitant and didn't answer, but the man below couldn't stand this humiliating posture anymore and opened his mouth. "In the small wooden house. Let me go, and I'll take you there." 21. When I arrived at the small wooden house, Evan and the others had already untied the ropes. Looking at the people who were holding sticks and were about to knock me out, I took the lead in breaking the silence. "It seems you guys are still in good spirits." Evan saw me and embarrassedly put down the stick. "Boss, I should have been more cautious. I've caused you trouble." I took a step back and made room for them to come out. Quite a few people came out and soon surrounded the small wooden house, looking at many unfamiliar faces inside. Before I could say anything, Evan had already explained first, "These are all the people who were originally trapped. They were all deceived by that man." Speaking of this, he immediately said angrily, "In the apocalypse, there are no kind-hearted people. Who would have thought that such a thin and small man could be so full of tricks?" Hearing this, I was stunned and murmured, "Thin and small, among that group of people just now, there was no one with such a body shape." Thinking of this, I immediately turned around and ran back. My heart was beating so fast that it seemed to jump out of my chest. There was only one thought in my mind: something happened to the cruise ship, and my mother was still on it. 22. When I ran to the docking point, everyone immediately understood what had happened. Someone saw the empty place and immediately cursed, "Damn it, that kid is so insidious. He actually drove the ship away. My things are still on it. Don't let me meet him again, or I'll break his teeth." The complaining voices behind me came intermittently, but I ignored them. My heart was filled with great worry until the system's voice suddenly rang out. I quickly calmed down, detected that the cruise ship is more than 500 meters away from the host. Now the automatic recall function will be activated. I looked at the cruise ship that was automatically driving back from a distance and clenched the crowbar that somehow appeared in my hand. Before rushing up, I couldn't help but think in my heart, "No matter who is on the ship, you'd better pray that my mother is okay, otherwise you will definitely be doomed." 23. When I got on the ship, I and the people behind me were all stunned. There were corpses lying all over the ground, like a murder scene. The few remaining people who were still alive saw us coming and crawled over to beg for mercy. "Help, there's been a killing." I looked at the man rushing towards me, raised the stick, and struck him on the head. The crowbar broke, and the man immediately bled and fell to the ground. After he fainted, I immediately rushed towards my mother. "Mom, are you okay?" My mother shook her head. She gave me her familiar, gentle and harmless smile. I carefully examined my mother, except for her red face, which still showed signs of a fever. There were no other external injuries. Seeing this, I immediately let out a sigh of relief. 24. After my mother's introduction, I learned what had happened on the ship. After the ship was driven away, those people planned to massacre the old, weak, sick, and disabled on the ship. Unexpectedly, they were counter-killed. Ember, they helped me. They are all very powerful people. I looked at the people my mother mentioned: a seemingly introverted and quiet little girl, an octogenarian leaning on a crutch, a lively and active husky, and a big man wearing a small skirt. I didn't underestimate them. After all, people who could end up in prison must have some real skills. I thanked them. "Thank you for saving my mother." The few of them were stunned for a moment and somehow seemed a bit hesitant. 25. Until at night, the quiet girl named Fiona quietly whispered in my ear, Actually, when those men said they were going to occupy this place and kill us all, the first one to react was Camila. Speaking of this, she looked up with a look of admiration in her eyes. Camila is so fierce. Before we could react, she rushed up and suppressed 3 men alone, beating them fiercely. That posture clearly showed she had practiced. I looked at the excited girl and felt a complex emotion. Just now, I had obtained a new skill. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new skill. The Sharp Woman, Skill Introduction, the 18 Deadly Knives. Each knife is deadly. After 10 years of hard study, it's all for this one moment of eruption, stabbing someone 18 times, each knife causing a minor injury. Perhaps, this is the charm of a medical student. When I investigated the prison before, I knew there was someone in the prison who stabbed her boyfriend in Gaden at that time. The news caused a stir. And the defendant was only sentenced to 1 month in prison, and this tough person was now in front of me, saying that she admired my mother, 26, when my grandfather was still alive. He sometimes told me stories about my mother when she was a child. Every time he said that my mother was the bully of the neighborhood when she was a child, often climbing onto the roof and taking off the tiles and beating people. I never took it seriously. My mother had always been a gentle and virtuous housewife in front of me. Until today, I had a new understanding of my mother's combat power. It turned out that my grandfather really wasn't bragging. I coughed softly and pretended to be extremely calm in front of Fiona, as if I had known this all along. Secretly, I was sighing. No wonder the skill I obtained from my mother had such great lethality. My mother had always educated me. The best way to protect someone is not to keep them in a greenhouse but to let them be strong and grow through hardships. It was not until Fiona affectionately took my hand and praised my mother's heroic deeds that I suddenly woke up. In the past, I had blindly tried to stand in front and protect my mother, but I had ignored my mother's thoughts. She wasn't just Ember's mother, her name was Camila, from the beginning to the end. How could a woman who could easily kill a man be weak? 27, Mom, I met Autumn when I went down this time. She's with a new man now. Originally, I didn't plan to tell my mother these things, but after what happened yesterday, I also understood. My mother was stronger than I thought. She had the right to know everything. My mother heard my words and was very calm, as if she wasn't surprised at all. This place is close to her home. It's not strange to meet her. I glanced at my mother's expression and said softly, she took away Grandpa's house before. I wanted to take it back, but since the end of the world has come, that house is useless now. My mother nodded and affirmed, you did the right thing. If the house is gone, we can get another one. If your grandfather knew how powerful you are now, he would only be proud of you. After saying that, she gently patted me, and there was still a lingering murderous look on her face. Our family members are all reasonable people. We should avenge the wrongs and thank the kindness. I nodded in agreement. The people in our family have always avenged their enemies on the spot. The people on the mountain, along with Autumn, were left there wearing only their underwear. After all, if you want to play dirty tricks, you have to bear the consequences of failure. 28. After the flood receded, food became the most scarce resource in the apocalypse. We went back to the prison. Although it had been washed by the flood, the electric wires could still be turned on again. After clearing away the zombies around, the safety factor here became very high. The heavy rain had washed away most of the food planted in the prison, and only some canned food was still usable. Fortunately, the fertility of the land and the seeds were still there, and food could be planted again. In the first year of the apocalypse, natural disasters and zombies appeared frequently, and the safe zone established in the prison gradually became famous. More and more talents were recruited into the prison. When I drove back after clearing the zombies, I heard a crackling sound of gunshots at the prison gate. When I got closer, a bullet swept past my ear. The sudden pain on the side of my face was accompanied by the huge creature that appeared in front of me. 29. Without time to feel the pain, I quickly dodged the strange beast that attacked me. The strange beast was probably about 2 meters long and was a mutated crocodile. When it bit, its sharp teeth were extremely lethal. The bullets shot at it seemed to have no effect. I took out a small knife and swung it at the crocodile. After only a few strokes, there were notches on the knife. This crocodile was even more thick-skinned than I thought. I threw away the knife and quickly avoided the crocodile's open mouth, the mouth with great biting force looked like it could easily swallow me in one bite. I immediately took out the big knife rewarded by the system. The crocodile's head bled bright red blood after being struck, but the wound was not very deep. The crocodile was in pain and rushed up again, this time even more. Fortunately, during this period, I had killed many evolved zombies and gained experience in fighting. I dodged and attacked at the same time, using the skills to the fullest, and finally managed to wear down and kill The crocodile little by little. 30. I collapsed beside the car, gasping for breath, and the system's voice rang in my ears. Congratulations to the host for killing a mutated beast for the first time. Reward obtained: 1 strange beast egg, 1 strange beast serum, 1 incomplete antidote fragment, 1 dragon thorn knife, 100 sets of protective clothing. Mutated beasts were a new species that had only recently appeared, and this was the first time I had encountered one. This reward was higher than the rewards I had obtained for killing evolved zombies before. After I regained my strength, I drove into the base and asked someone to bring the strange beast's body in. I handed over the supplies I had obtained from this field mission to my mother for management. Just after checking the system's rewards, someone suddenly came in from outside and informed me, "Boss, the strange beast you killed has been robbed." 31. The person in charge of escorting the strange beast took me to the warehouse and pointed at the strange beast's body that had been divided up, leaving only its head, and complained, "Those newly arrived people, relying on the fact that they are scientific researchers and using the excuse of saving the apocalypse, have robbed all the supplies they could in our base." I looked at the corpse on the ground and turned to ask, "Where are those people now?" "They are in Area 1 now. They have also occupied the best house." When I went there, those people happened to be arguing with others, and old man among them was holding a supply bag in his hand and refusing to let go, shouting, "We need this for our research, just hand it over to us obediently." The strong man opposite also refused to give in. He was holding up his skirt with one hand and pointing at the old man while scolding, "Why should I give it to you? This was issued to me by my boss. If you want it, exchange it with your own strength." Seeing this, several men around the old man aggressively prepared to step forward. The strong man was rolling up his skirt and preparing to fight, when he caught a glimpse of me out of the corner of his eye. His eyes suddenly lit up. He trotted towards me and changed his burly voice into a sweet girl's voice. "Boss, these people are so unreasonable. You must teach them a lesson." After saying that, he put his hands on his hips and glared at the opposite side, looking like they were doomed. 32. I coughed softly, trying to save my image. "Kieran, I always convince people with reason." Kieran nodded and was about to speak, but was directly interrupted by the opposite side. "You sissy men actually recognize a little girl as your boss. You really have no shame. Is that woman the mistress of someone in your base?" Hearing this, I looked at the old man who spoke. He was wearing a white coat, with a mean face and a sarcastic tone. He was surrounded and protected by several bodyguards, and he was holding a supply bag tightly in his arms. I stopped Kieran, who was about to step forward, and asked him, "Who are you?" After hearing this, the old man introduced himself confidently. "I am Dr. Jet from the Sunshine Laboratory, the person most likely to solve the zombie virus. Before the end of the world, the Sunshine Laboratory was the most famous laboratory in the world." After he finished speaking, the system prompt also rang in my ear. My expression became serious. After reading the skill introduction, I turned around and ordered the guards, "Throw these people out. Our base doesn't need such people." Congratulations to the host for unlocking Jet's skill. Sneaky tricks, reputation, status, identity, and money can all be stolen. P.S. Do you also want to become a superstar? Kill the original owner, and you can take his place. I was speechless. This was the most useless and disgusting murderer I had ever encountered. 33. Jet struggled violently in the hands of the guards, trying to save himself, and shouted loudly, "You can't touch me. I am a relative of Boss Wesley. Regardless of what boss you are talking about, get out of here quickly." Kieran was holding the recovered supply bag while cursing. The guards were in the middle of throwing people out when they were stopped. "This is someone from Boss Wesley. How dare you move them?" The bodyguards behind surrounded them and looked fierce. I followed behind and asked when I saw this, "Who is Boss Wesley?" I didn't expect that just after I hadn't been back to the base for a month. There were many people I didn't know. Kieran secretly lowered his head and whispered in my ear to explain. "He came from another base last month. His name is Wesley. He brought scientific research resources, so Evan made him a vice captain." The vice captain in the base was equivalent to the mayor level. "He has been acting tyrannically, relying on his status this month." Hearing this, I paused. "Wesley, the one with a dark birthmark on his face and a strong accent?" Kieran nodded in surprise. "Yes, boss. Do you know him?" I gradually showed a meaningful smile. "Speaking of this person, I knew him very well before the end of the world. He embezzled public funds, bribed, enslaved his subordinates, and made ill-gotten gains. He also colluded with Autumn and bribed the court to mess up my mother's lawsuit. Most importantly, he was my father's boss." 34. As the saying goes, enemies often meet on a narrow road. Wesley came to our door by himself so openly. If I didn't return some gifts, it wouldn't be reasonable. When I went to find him, Wesley was still drinking red wine happily. When he saw me come in, he even reached out to me in a daze. "Pretty girl, come and play with me." I held his outstretched hand and whispered in his ear, "Honey, so you're here. Cade said he's been looking for you downstairs for a long time." Cade was the name of my scumbag father. The person in front of me was stunned for a moment, and the confusion in his eyes gradually faded. He sat up straight, opened his small mung bean-sized eyes, and carefully examined me. After a while, he slapped his thigh as if he understood. "It's you." He stood up excitedly, his eyes filled with excited malice. "Let's see what I've found. Are you a gift that Evan gave me?" After saying that, he staggered to his feet, and a stench of alcohol came out when he spoke. "I didn't get you last time. As long as you make me happy this time, you can choose whatever you want from these." He pointed at the mountain of supplies behind him. I was sharp-eyed and clearly saw that more than half of them were the supplies I had just brought, so my things had been robbed by him. Seeing this, I imitated Fiona and gave him a cute and shy smile. 35. When Evan received the news and rushed over in a hurry, what he saw was the scene of me beating Wesley on the ground. I even used the sharp woman skill, specifically targeting the painful spots until there was a smell of urine in the room. I withdrew my hand and stood up in disgust, and Wesley crawled and rolled to Evan's feet. He pointed at me and cursed loudly. "Evan, did you send this little bitch here to kill me?" His face was like a pig's head, and his small eyes, now only slits, were filled with nothing but resentment. I exchanged a glance with Evan. He immediately understood. He kicked Wesley away and then stood behind me, with a humble attitude. "I call you Wesley, and you really think you're a big shot. Let me introduce you. The person in front of you is the leader of our base, the one you've always wanted to see. Since she wants to beat you personally, shouldn't you kneel down and thank her with gratitude?" His last sentence came out so smoothly that I coughed softly, pretending not to hear. As I revealed more and more of my abilities, the people in the base had unconsciously deified me. I looked at the person on the ground who was still in disbelief and gave a faint order: "Throw him and his people out together. From now on, our base doesn't welcome him." 36. Wesley was kicked out of the base with his subordinates, but he seemed to be born with a thick skin. He stubbornly shouted at the base entrance for 3 days and refused to leave. The people in the base, following my orders, ignored him completely until the 3rd day. Evan came to see me. "Wesley is dead," he said. His voice attracted a strange beast, and he was chewed to only his head left. I calmly observed the strange beast serum in my hand and was not surprised at all. However, Camila specifically went to the entrance to collect his body. Evan's voice was a bit hesitant. Hearing this, I put down the medicine in my hand, turned around, and asked with a hint of confusion in my voice, "My mom?" 37. My mom had buried a small mound of earth in a wasteland behind the prison. She stood in front of the mound, her head bowed in silence. When I went over, I didn't disturb her and quietly stood behind the mound with her. After a long time, my mom let out a sigh. "Do you remember the house next to ours?" I nodded. The house next to ours had always been abandoned, and later it was often joked about as a haunted house. When I was a child, I even believed the story of the haunted house for a while. That house used to belong to Wesley's family, my mom said. I looked down at the mound, a bit shocked. So my mom and Wesley had known each other for a long time. In your terms, you could say they were childhood sweethearts, my mom continued. As she spoke, she closed her eyes, and her voice trembled slightly. When I saw him again, I really almost didn't recognize him. When he was a child, he was always a gentle and quiet boy. His grades weren't very high, but he was very smart. I always used to play with him at that time. Unfortunately, later, his mother contracted an epidemic disease, and their family was avoided by everyone. His mother died in less than a year. After that, his father took him away and never came back. Sometimes I wonder, if I could have done something at that time, would everything be different? 38. A person who is pitiful must have something about them, I said softly. Mom, such a person isn't worth pitying. My mom let out a soft hum and said, I know, perhaps when Wesley harassed my mom before and colluded with my dad to covet me, he might also have thought of his former self, or perhaps he had completely turned bad. No one knew what he was thinking in the end. Alongside buried everything in silence. 39. In the 3rd year of the apocalypse, large-scale disasters broke out. Zombies surrounded the city, and the world's population plummeted. The incomplete antidote and strange beast serum that I had been collecting finally became almost complete. After getting the complete antidote, I finally saw the origin of the zombies. The initial zombie virus originated from animals. At first, people all thought it was just a simple flu. Their lack of attention to containment allowed the people who ate the meat of those animals to all mutate. Later, the mutated people were controlled by a nerve virus, ate raw meat, and couldn't be killed even if their hearts were pierced. They were like zombies. This was also the reason why the laboratory had no progress in researching on zombies and humans, but now, the antidote finally had progress. As long as these were handed over to professional scientific researchers, the antidote could be developed soon. People had become proficient at avoiding natural disasters and were about to solve the threats of zombies and strange beasts. Humanity, which had been struggling in the apocalypse, was about to welcome the dawn. Anyone who knew these news would feel extremely happy, but at this moment, I was just staring blankly at the antidote in my hand and asking, "System, what exactly are you?" This was the first time I had become curious about the system's identity. If it weren't for the system, I might have also become a tiny dust crushed by the natural disasters, and the apocalypse, presumably, wouldn't end so soon. 14 Ding. Detected that the threat level of the apocalypse in the current world is gradually decreasing. Congratulations to the host for completing the challenge. Now issuing the last hidden task. Task issuer, killing system, please choose, accept, reject the task. I looked at the task that suddenly popped up on the panel, and my finger hovered over accept. This task was issued by you. I asked, yes. The designer didn't prepare this task for the host, but after calculation, the system found that with the host's current abilities, the success rate is as high as 99%. After it finished speaking, I didn't hesitate and clicked accept. I thought, finally, I could do something for the system. Task objective, save Ember. Task time is unlimited. There will be no punishment for failure. Please complete the task with confidence. When I saw the task objective, I was stunned. Save myself. 41 Don't worry, follow your feelings, and you can complete this task. After the task is successful, the system will send you back. After the system finished this sentence, it completely disappeared, and I looked at the familiar environment in front of me. This was my grandfather's small Western style building. Everything was the same as before. Even on the sofa and carpet, there were dark red bloodstains that seemed to have solidified for a long time. I walked up the stairs and all the way to the door of my room. Since I stood here, there had been an inexplicable impulse in my heart. This time, a different scene finally appeared inside the door. In a pure white space, a sleeping woman was lying. Her hair was completely white. Countless transparent test tubes were connected to her brain. Her body was old and full of wrinkles, like a mummy. I suddenly felt a surge of sadness. 42 Don't cry. This was my choice. A gentle female voice came from the screen in front of me. I already know everything from the data. You saved your mother and also saved the apocalypse. Parallel worlds me. You've done a great job. I gently stroked the old face in front of me and asked, "Can I save you?" The voice smiled softly, with a hint of relief. The killing system was made with my memories. It took the initiative to bring you here. I'm really sorry. However, you've erased all the things I regretted, and I will be with the life I've dedicated my life to researching forever. 43 I had a dream. In the dream, I became the friend of a little girl. I helped her parents get a divorce, took back the small Western-style building, and drove away all the people who bullied their mother and daughter. I accompanied the little girl to grow up day by day and watched her become a genius in the field of physics. The little girl was extremely talented and discovered the existence of parallel worlds. In order to help herself in another world, she exhausted all her efforts and created a new life. What should we name it? A fool? Okay, let's call it the killing system. 44 When I woke up from the dream, the person in front of me closed her eyes with a smile. A very faint voice that was about to dissipate came from my ear. "Thank you for giving the host a beautiful dream," I gently Ed, the scene in front of me changed, and I returned to the house in the base. People's faces were filled with the joy of the end of the apocalypse. After the apocalypse, people threw themselves into one infrastructure project after another. Everything before seemed like a dream. I held the last bit of electronic components in my hand, looking up at the clear blue sky. Suddenly, a voice came from the distance. "Ember, where have you been again? Come quickly, we're going home." After the end of the apocalypse, my family's small Western-style building had been rebuilt. Civilization was also reviving. Perhaps in a few years, I could still go to college. "I'm coming." In the setting sun, I turned around and ran towards my mother. The shadow behind me was stretched very long. I rushed into that person's arms quickly, like the wind. As expected, a gentle scolding came to my ears. "Run slowly. There's no rush," I gently agreed. "Yes, there's no rush." Story 2 Having been reborn just before the apocalypse, I thoroughly stocked up and fortified my small supermarket. I waited for the malicious school beauty and her 3 brothers, who doted on their younger sisters to an extreme, to come knocking on my door. In my previous life, they blindly protected their sister, smashed up my supermarket, stole my supplies, and watched as I was pushed into a horde of zombies by the malicious school beauty. It wasn't until the zombies had torn my clothes and flesh that they noticed the birthmark on my body, and their expressions turned to horror. It turned out I was their real younger sister. I died just a second before the zombie serum was injected into my body. In the last moments before my death, I endured the excruciating pain of being torn and gnawed at by zombies. If the school beauty hadn't brought her brothers that day to destroy my supermarket, steal my supplies, and push me towards the zombie horde, I wouldn't have been devoured by zombies and died with my eyes wide open. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely make her pay a painful price. Perhaps it was divine pity, but when I opened my eyes again, I found myself reborn. I had returned to 5 days before the outbreak of the zombie virus. I suppressed the excitement in my heart and quickly calmed myself down, sorting through my memories of my past life. In 5 days, a disaster that even scientists could not explain would erupt, the zombie virus. This virus spread incredibly fast and was uncontrollable. Infected people would lose their minds, wandering and biting like the Walking Dead. Those who were bitten would also turn into zombies. However, 2 months later, scientists developed a serum and a vaccine. The serum could initially control the spread of the virus and help the infected regain their senses, but those with severe limb loss and organ damage could not be saved. Like me, in my previous life, I shuddered as I recalled the intense pain of being bitten by zombies in my past life. I took a deep breath to calm myself, looking at the small supermarket left to me by my mother. I knew that my immediate task was to fortify the doors and windows and stock up on supplies. Today was Monday, and I skipped school to go directly to the city's largest market to buy food. With the Mid-Autumn Festival approaching, there were all sorts of gift boxes filled with mooncakes and hairy crabs. Under the enthusiastic sales pitch of the salesperson, I bought a few crabs as a gesture. Then, I broke away from the crowd and headed straight for the food section. While ordering a large quantity of filling and non-perishable food, I also contacted a door and electrical appliance store and a gas company. I had the door company install the toughest doors, windows, and bulletproof glass in my supermarket within 5 days. The electrical store was to equip my supermarket with solar panels and a backup generator. Water towers and gas were also essential, ensuring my quality of life for the next 2 months. Due to the tight schedule, I had to pay the workers more money. Just preparing these things had spent all of the $300,000 inheritance from my mother, but I didn't feel sorry at all, because in 5 days, I would be worth billions too. I spent 5 days gathering various supplies and arming my small supermarket. These 5 days made me profoundly realize that money truly is omnipotent. My small supermarket is now indestructible. The supplies stored could last not just for 2 months, but even for a year if needed for eating and drinking. This was the first time I had been so extravagant, and the feeling of buying without looking at prices was exhilarating. I watched the time. With less than 10 minutes left until the massive outbreak of the zombie virus, I turned on my phone, which had been off, and hundreds of messages flooded in. The messages I had posted on various forums and the school's official website about the upcoming zombie virus outbreak had all been reported. Some said I was spreading rumors, causing social panic. Others called me crazy. Only a few believed my words and went to stock up on supplies. There was little time left, and that was all I could do. But what I really wanted to see wasn't this. I opened WeChat, and over these 5 days, a girl named Mila had sent me many messages, but her messages were not out of concern. They were full of insults. "How dare you ignore Miss Mila's messages? You wait, I'll make you regret it." The paragraphs translate to, "Do you think I'll let you off just because you didn't come to school? Sophia, you dared to hide from me. Do you want to drink toilet water again? You're done for today." I looked at the photos she sent, all of them taken during previous instances when she bullied me. She had her cronies write "slut" on my body with a marker. They cut off the long hair I had been growing for 5 years and threw it into the trash. When I resisted, she slapped me and had her lackeys force me to drink water from the squat toilet. All of this, just because the person she liked had confessed to me. I'll never forget how Mila stepped on my head and warned me, "Sophia, my dad is the richest man in the country, and I have 3 powerful brothers. What do you have to fight against me? These lessons you learned are what you deserved. If you dare tell anyone, I'll scatter your mother's ashes." Indeed, Mila was so confident because she had a wealthy father and 3 devoted brothers. Once, while slapping me at school, she smugly mentioned that even if she committed murder, her brothers would take care of it. Her brothers had promised their late mother that they would do everything to take care of Mila. Plus, having briefly lost her in their childhood due to a lack of supervision, the brothers became even more indulgent once they got her back. When Mila and her cronies beat me half to death, I too wished I had brothers who loved and protected me like that, but not anymore. I shook off those chaotic thoughts and focused on the time. 10 minutes passed quickly, right on schedule. A series of screams came from outside. My classmates had turned into zombies, attacking each other. In the crowd, Mila was escorted to a Porsche by a group of men in black. My small store was on the route Mila took home. I moved a lounge chair, sat in front of the store's bulletproof glass door with my legs crossed, and enjoyed Lake Harry crabs and Haagen-Dazs ice cream as Mila's car passed by my store. I smiled and gave her the middle finger, my action, as expected. Infuriated Mila, she immediately had her driver stop the car, and under the protection of her bodyguards, stormed towards me angrily. I used to avoid Mila since she was powerful and had many supporters, but this time, I didn't hide. Instead, I casually continued to eat my crab, openly provoking her, because I knew, even if I didn't provoke Mila, she wouldn't leave me alone. In my previous life, when the zombie virus broke out, I wasn't at school. The day before, Mila and her group had dumped me in a toilet, leaving me soaking wet and feverish, so I had taken the day off. Later, I faintly heard screams outside. When I peeked out, Mila happened to see me. Just like now, she stopped her car and smashed up my store with a smug smile. However, this time, there was no smile on her face. Enraged by my provocation, Mila kicked the store door furiously. She glared at me venomously. Sophia, have you grown a lion's heart and a leopard's daring to flip me off? I shifted to a more comfortable position and flipped her off with both fingers. So what, if you dare, come in and hit me? I saw Mila's face contort with fury. She gritted her teeth and yelled at her bodyguards. What are you standing there for? Smash her door down. I was unconcerned. As the bodyguards attempted to ram the door, I continued to savor my crab. Who are they kidding? The bulletproof glass and reinforced security door I had installed at great expense wouldn't budge under human force, let alone a small car. I watched, grinning, as the bodyguards rammed the door several times to no effect. I smiled cheekily at Mila. Is that all you've got? Mila, fuming, her face turned green. Mila pulled out her phone and dialed a number, venomously warning me. Sophia, you just wait. I'll make you regret this. I'll have you wait. I'm calling my big brother right now. I don't believe a special forces armored vehicle can't break through your lousy supermarket, she threatened. I was actually waiting for her to say this. After all, in my previous life, the first person to notice my birthmark was Timothy's eldest brother. But with my current identity, I couldn't get close to him. It wasn't long after Mila's call that I saw several armored vehicles driving towards me. A squad of fully armed special soldiers disembarked, led by a tall and handsome officer. It was Mila's big brother, Victor, who joined the special forces to protect his sister. I saw Mila running up to him and throwing herself into Victor's arms. Big brother, you finally arrived. It's this Sophia. She spread the zombie virus and killed everyone, Mila accused. I was so angered I almost laughed. Mila, you really don't prepare your lies. Mila clung to Victor's hand, continuously slandering me, lying. Sophia, wasn't it just 5 days ago you spread doomsday rhetoric at school? If it wasn't you, why would you have stockpiled supplies and replaced the supermarket windows with bulletproof glass? As soon as Mila finished speaking, I felt Victor's gaze on me turn icy cold. I saw Victor step forward and push on the door of my little supermarket, his expression turning grave. It really is bulletproof glass. It seems you can't be separated from this virus outbreak. I order you to open the door immediately. I glanced at Mila, who was protected behind him, remembered how in my past life Mila had pushed me out and he hadn't stopped her, and felt a surge of grievance and sadness. Without a word, and Mila, confident in her backing, continued to incite Victor. Big brother, she's guilty. She definitely won't open the door. Why don't we just break it down? Victor agreed with Mila's suggestion and looked back at me, saying, I'll count to 3, and if you don't open the door, I'll break it down. I took a deep breath, calming myself down. Then I said to Victor, no need to trouble yourself, officer, I'll open the door myself. With that, I opened the door. Several special forces soldiers in protective gear immediately rushed forward and pinned me to the ground like a terrorist. Mila made a triumphant face at me. Now you know how formidable my big brother is. Serves you right. I saw Victor affectionately pat Mila's head and felt the irony. I couldn't help but snicker. Your big brother. Did you guys ever do a paternity test? Is that birthmark on you real? Victor, a special forces soldier, immediately caught the significance of my words. A birthmark? How do you know about the birthmark? After all, only Timothy's family knew about the birthmark on the inside of the arm of Timothy's youngest daughter. Hearing Victor ask about the birthmark, Mila's face turned pale. She tried to interrupt my conversation with Victor. Big brother, don't listen to her nonsense. This wretch is just trying to drive a wedge between us. As she spoke, she even stretched out a foot to step on my face, but I knew Victor, a meticulous soldier, would definitely dig deeper once he became suspicious. Sure enough, Victor pulled Mila back, who was about to kick me. Sister, wait a moment, I have a few questions for her. He waved his hand Signaling his men to let go of me, I dusted myself off and stood up, feeling no gratitude. After all, if it weren't for his indulgence in the past life, Mila wouldn't dare to push me into a crowd of zombies. At this moment, I looked at Mila, who was sweating profusely, and didn't rush to reveal the truth. I was waiting for the arrival of Timothy's second eldest brother. Sure enough, just as Victor signaled me to continue, the sound of helicopter blades interrupted his questioning. Outside the supermarket, a well-dressed, handsome man came walking down. It was Mila's older brother, William, a financial tycoon who had chosen to go into business to provide a prosperous life for his sister. I wasn't surprised to see Mila's worry turn into joy as she threw herself into William's arms. "Big brother, why did you take so long? This woman spread the zombie virus and I caught her. She even tried to drive a wedge between us." I was so scared. Before I could retort, William grabbed me by the collar and flung me violently toward the shelves. The room temperature milk and drinks, which I had neatly arranged just the day before, crashed down on my head and scattered all over the floor. Trembling, I wiped the blood from my face. In my heart, there was a sense of suffocation from being unable to fight back, mixed with a strange thrill. "Go on, keep hitting me." I couldn't wait to see the expression on William's face when he discovered the truth. Among the three brothers in Timothy's family, William was the one most blindly indulgent towards his sister. Victor was a soldier and somewhat reasonable, but this financial magnate, used to deceit in the business world, seemed to lack that baseline of decency. When it came to his sister, he was unreasonably protective to the extreme. Just like now, William looked at me as if I were trash. He took out a handkerchief, wiped his hands under his gold-rimmed glasses, his eyes fierce, but his words were polite and refined. "Sorry, I lost my temper for a moment. After all, the way you looked at my sister was asking for it." Hearing this, Mila, hiding behind William, smirked triumphantly at me. "Big brother, I knew you loved me the most. I love you to death." I watched William affectionately pat Mila on the head, and then glanced at Victor, who chose to ignore William's actions. My vision began to blur. Despite feeling nauseous from a concussion and in pain as if run over by a truck, I bravely faced the cold stares of William and Victor without showing any weakness. Their looks were just like those of the lackeys who bullied me alongside Mila. William was the most blindly indulgent brother. What would his reaction be when he realized that he was bullying his own sister? But I still didn't rush to reveal the truth. After all, not all three brothers of the Timothy family were present yet, and the climax of the drama was yet to come. I simply leaned against the fallen shelf, lifted my face covered in blood and milk, and asked William with a smile, "You care so much for your sister. Haven't you noticed she's been scratched by a zombie? If you don't take her to the hospital to see your eldest brother soon, she might get infected." At my words, both brothers and Mila herself were stunned. William could no longer focus on hurting me. He cupped Mila's face, examining her from head to toe as if she were a rare treasure. "Sister, tell your big brother, does it hurt anywhere?" The usually stern-faced Victor also showed concern. His military attention to detail made him quickly notice the wounds on Mila. He took Mila's hand gently, checking it carefully, then his expression drastically changed. I caught a glimpse of Mila, cradled protectively in her brother's hands, looking utterly bewildered. Indeed, in her past life, she had never noticed the slight scratch on the back of her hand, but I knew very well that this fingernail-sized wound eventually led to her being infected by the zombie virus. She was luckier than me. She had an eldest brother, Timothy, a top medical expert involved in developing the serum and vaccine during the zombie outbreak. Under his leadership, this top global medical team developed the serum and vaccine within 3 months. The first dose of serum, eagerly awaited by the whole country, was administered to Mila. Timothy even honored her with the title of trial volunteer, and the whole country thanked her for her heroic contribution. If it hadn't been for Mila bragging to me about this before pushing me into a horde of zombies in her previous life, claiming Timothy had confirmed the serum's safety before administering it, I might have actually believed she had changed. At that moment, Victor didn't hesitate to carry Mila onto the helicopter. William then turned around and fiercely grabbed my neck. My toes left the ground, my throat hurt, and breathing was difficult. It seemed William was truly angered by my words. In his previous life, upon learning that his beloved sister had been scratched, he was so distraught that he didn't spare a glance for me. It wasn't until after he had rushed Mila to the hospital for an examination that he thought to deal with me. Just when I thought William was about to strangle me, he threw me aside with a ferocious expression contorting his refined face. "I suspect this person deliberately released the zombie virus, resulting in my sister's infection. It's akin to murder. You are my brother's men. You know what to do, right?" I was tossed to the ground like a rag, unable to suppress a violent cough. I gasped for fresh air, yet an inexplicable urge to kill surged within me. At that moment, I wanted William dead, but I knew I couldn't and wasn't able to yet. The stark disparity in strength between men and women meant I could only take the beating. The gap between the ordinary and the elite meant I could only be scapegoated for this alleged murder. As for telling the truth, without solid irrefutable evidence, even if I spoke up, they wouldn't believe me. Going to the hospital to get a DNA test was the most crucial part of my revenge plan. Victor's men handcuffed me and threw me into the trunk of a car like cattle. The car jolted frighteningly as it dodged hordes of zombies on the way. I endured the roller coaster-like ride in the trunk, listening to the zombies' howls and terrifying gunshots, my face bruised and my body battered. After what seemed like an eternity of bumps, the car finally reached the hospital. Victor's soldiers forcefully dragged me into the elevator, nearly tearing my arms off. After a long corridor, they shoved me into a luxurious VIP hospital room. I fell miserably to the floor, my eyes crusted with dried blood, and despite the severe pain, I looked towards the hospital bed. 3 handsome men stood around the bed, looking worriedly at Mila. One of them, a refined and elegant doctor in a white coat, was tenderly disinfecting and bandaging Mila's hand. This was Mila's third brother, Timothy, who had become a doctor and the director of the city's largest private hospital to ensure his sister lived a pain-free life. Seeing me, Mila was agitated. She clung to Timothy, pointing at me and crying, "Brother, it was her. This wretched woman pushed me towards the zombies and caused me to be scratched. Am I going to die?" I watched as Timothy gently soothed Mila. "Don't be scared, Mila. I've already sprayed you with the suppressant. The world's top scientific teams are here, and the serum will be developed soon. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." Then, Timothy looked over at me, his face usually gentle and compassionate when dealing with patients, now showing cold disdain. I never thought there could be such a malicious woman. His gaze lingered on me, noticing my injuries, his inherent compassion causing him to frown briefly before quickly looking away, facing Timothy, who in a past life had shown me a bit of kindness by hurriedly bandaging my wounds. I felt a sudden pang in my nose. I instinctively tried to defend myself but was cut off by William's kick. He furiously kicked me in the abdomen without any mercy. I was thrown hard against the wall, the intense pain leaving me unable to even scream. Shivering, I hugged my stomach and curled up at the base of the wall, unable to get up again. How ruthless! Even though I knew the kick was coming, my injured body couldn't fully dodge it. Fortunately, I adjusted my position so that unlike in my past life when 3 ribs were broken, this time the force was all on my stomach. It looked terrible, but the pain was much less. Seeing me defeated, Mila clapped frantically from her hospital bed, flashing me a triumphant smile. "Big bro kicked her well. This wench totally had it coming." Encouraged by her praise, William looked at me with a steely gaze, more fired up than before. "Beating her is too mild. Such a malicious woman should be thrown to the zombies." At these words, Mila's eyes sparkled with excitement, and her gaze toward me turned venomous. "You're right, big bro. Let's throw her out to the zombies." "No wait, it's my birthday today. I should do it myself to really feel satisfied," she said, rolling up her sleeves and attempting to get out of the bed. I couldn't help but sneer internally. Mila had been wanting to do this all along. She was desperate to kill me to silence me. If it weren't for the zombie virus outbreak, today would have been her 20th birthday, the day she was supposed to inherit billions from Timothy's family. At this critical moment, I was about to expose her true identity, and it was no surprise she wanted me dead. My gaze swept past Victor, whose first reaction to the suggestion was a frown, but he eventually remained silent. I knew he was hesitant. His military discipline made him uncomfortable with punishing a suspect without due process, but today was his beloved sister's birthday, a request from her that he couldn't refuse. I glanced at Timothy, who was holding Mila back from getting out of the bed, pretending to scold her. "Mila, you don't need to dirty your hands. Your brothers will handle it." Watching their united front, all ready to feed me to the zombies, I clutched my aching stomach and burst into loud laughter. My laughter caught their attention, and Victor was the first to confront me, his demeanor growing colder. "What are you laughing at?" Bearing the pain, I managed to raise my hand shakily and wipe the tears from my laughter, baring my teeth in a grin. "I'm laughing at you all for wanting to throw your real sister to the zombies for a fake one." My words hit them like a torpedo, stunning the 4 people in the room. Victor was the quickest to react. He stepped forward and grabbed my collar, staring at me sharply, and demanded in a low voice, "What proof do you have for saying that?" Before I could answer, an agitated Mila immediately interrupted. "Big brother, don't believe her. She's just trying to drive a wedge between us. This wicked woman should just be fed to the zombies sooner rather than later." As she spoke, Mila pushed Timothy aside and rushed at me, her face twisted as she grabbed my hair and dragged me toward the balcony. I was shocked. This woman was even crazier than in my past life. Outside the hospital, a large crowd of zombies had already gathered, and she intended to throw me directly to them. Realizing her intent, I couldn't care less about my injuries and struggled fiercely, scratching her face in the process. "Ah, you bitch, how dare you ruin my face." The three who had been merely watching until now couldn't stand by any longer. William reacted the fastest, rushing over to push me away with such force that I almost fell off the balcony. I clenched my teeth, holding back any cries of pain, my hands tightly gripping the balcony's edge, my gaze landing on a stunned Victor. During my struggle with Mila, she had torn my clothes. If only the timing had been right, I would have laughed out loud. Little did Mila know, she had inadvertently revealed my birthmark herself. At that moment, Victor was staring intensely at the inside of my arm. At the torn spot, he had finally noticed my birthmark. Mila saw it too. Her pupils shrinking, her face draining of color. Now she was truly panicked, pushing William aside, her eyes red as she rushed at me again, her face contorted in rage as she aimed a kick at my head. "Bitch, go die." Her foot barely missed my face, but the next second, Victor pulled her away. Mila fell hard to the ground, her face bloodied, but Victor didn't spare her another glance. My body hung over the edge of the balcony, and he was holding on to my hand tightly. "Don't let go, hold tight to me." Timothy, with his keen eyes, noticed in shock. His eyes widened, and he scrambled and crawled over to me, grabbing my other hand. Only William was still in the dark because, from start to finish, his eyes were only on Mila, his precious little sister. At that moment, he was holding the injured Mila in his arms, seemingly talking to Victor, but his eyes, filled with hostility, were fixed on me. "Big brother, have you all gone mad? You believe what this wretch says." However, this time neither Victor nor Timothy paid him any heed. Victor, with his impressive strength, easily pulled me back from the edge of the balcony. Timothy, donned in his white coat, immediately carried me back to the hospital room. Only when I lay down safely did my heart start racing wildly. I admit, there was an element of gambling in what I did. Had there been any slight mishap, I would have been doomed, but thankfully, fortune was on my side. Mila's attempt had backfired spectacularly. Her eagerness to eliminate me only raised Victor's suspicions. Had it not been for his military background, he might have wanted to tear my clothes off to check for himself right then and there. As I was calming myself, Timothy took my hand and twisted my arm around. My birthmark was fully exposed. This time it was clearly visible, and Timothy's voice trembled as he spoke. How do you have this birthmark?" His voice was loud, drawing William's attention as well. Mila's face turned as white as a sheet. She probably never imagined from the start that I was the legitimate young lady of Timothy's family. She instinctively tightened her grip on William's hand, positioning herself to block his view, trying to salvage the situation. "Second brother, listen to me. She's a fraud. I told her about the birthmark at school before. She must have faked it somehow. But this time, William, who usually indulged his sister, did not spare her another glance. He moved past Mila to my bedside, and upon seeing the birthmark on my arm, his face first registered shock, then suspicion. "Big brother, third brother, Mila does have a point, although the site of her birthmark was burnt and cannot be verified. But don't forget, Mila has undergone DNA testing." Mila's eyes lit up at this, nodding vigorously. "Yes, before Dad passed away, I had a paternity test with him. There's no way it's fake." As the situation unfolded just as I had hoped, drawing attention to the DNA, a slight smile curled at the corners of my mouth. The test results were indeed real, but that doesn't mean the samples tested were actually from Mila. Mila's mother worked as a maid for Timothy's family. 5 years after my disappearance, her nanny mother harbored ill intentions. She burned the inside of Mila's arm, claiming the birthmark was destroyed, and then, taking advantage of her position, collected hair samples from William and others to send for testing. That's why Mila was identified as a biological relative, and all this was what Mila, proud and triumphant, told me after pushing me towards a horde of zombies in my previous life. But this time, Mila won't be able to deceive everyone so easily. I remained silent, quietly looking towards Victor. Victor, a military man with strong insight and a hefty dose of suspicion, had discovered many imposters claiming to be the young lady of Timothy's family in the past, and none had met a good end, especially since his beloved sister Mila had just slandered me as a criminal spreading a zombie virus. If I had shown my birthmark in the mini-market, Mila would only have to say, "She mentioned the birthmark to me before." This wretch must have remembered and possibly tattooed it on. Then, with Victor's suspicions and William's intervention, I would have had no chance to verify the DNA now. However, Mila had been too eager to silence me, an action that would undoubtedly arouse Victor's suspicions. He would most likely suggest retesting. Sure enough, after giving Mila a glance, Victor proposed, "Let's Test the DNA again. Timothy also nodded, his face still wearing a gentle expression. This time, I will conduct the test personally. Upon hearing this, Mila finally realized this was indeed her true intention. She panicked immediately, instinctively searching for a lifeline nearby. She clutched desperately at the sleeve of William, who was beside her. You always cared for me the most, big brother. You believe me, right? However, William looked at her indifferently and then brushed her hand away. I happened to witness this scene and almost couldn't help laughing out loud. Mila's face was a picture of shock, her fingertips trembling. With no other option, she tried to cast a pleading look towards Victor. Unfortunately for her, Victor's gaze was entirely fixed on me, not sparing her even a glance. Soon, Timothy returned with the test results. Unsurprisingly, Mila had no connection whatsoever with them. Gone was her earlier domineering attitude when she used to bully me. Now, she sat on the floor, her face the epitome of defeat. William, too, was momentarily dazed upon hearing the results, but he quickly regained his composure. He glanced at the marks on my neck and adjusted his skewed wire-rimmed glasses. Then, suddenly, he knelt before my hospital bed. I'm sorry, little sister, I was wrong. Today is your birthday. Can you please not be mad at big brother? Oh. And here's the inheritance agreement that Dad left for you. Come on, sign it. William eagerly pulled out the $1 billion inheritance agreement, flipping it open to the page where I needed to sign. He even thoughtfully brought me the ink pad and pen. Looking at the inheritance agreement, I compliantly began to sign. As for forgiving him, I didn't even bring it up. After signing, I looked up at Mila. Mila was staring intensely at me, her eyes full of reluctance. After all, she and her mother had schemed for so long just for this vast inheritance, but now, their hopes were dashed. Seeing Mila's breathing become erratic, I sensed something was wrong. Sure enough, the next second she lunged at me with a ferocious expression. That's mine, you wretch. But before she could even touch my clothes, Victor had already pinned her down on the floor. Her mouth violently hit the floor, knocking out 2 of her front teeth, blood filling her mouth. I looked down at Mila, a sweet smile on my face, and pressed my fingerprint in front of her, but that was not enough. Mila, how does it feel to be pinned down on the ground when you cut my hair? Wrote wretch on me, and forced my head down to drink toilet water. You never thought you would end up like this, did you? Hearing my words, Timothy and his brothers, all protective of their sister, instantly turned pale and their looks towards Mila became harsh. Ah, how the tables have turned. With a grim expression, Victor dragged Mila towards the bathroom. It's too dangerous to keep the infected here. I'll lock her up first. Through the closing bathroom door, I heard Mila's gulping sounds and her pleas for mercy. At this moment, William came to my side, looking at me appeasingly. Little sister, have you calmed down? I slowly put away the agreement, smiling at him. Seems like you're pacifying the wrong person. I'm just a wretch. Your precious little sister is in the bathroom. Seeing my cold demeanor, William sighed lightly, his tone filled with helplessness. Are you still angry because big brother was rough with you before? I couldn't help but laugh. So, nearly beating someone to death is called being rough. Maybe I should be rough with you too. William choked on my words, momentarily lost for words. With regret on his face, he asked, Sister, what do you want me to do before you'll calm down? I flashed William a brilliant smile. Simple, just go die. William choked up instantly, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses awkwardly. I ignored him, intending to get out of bed and leave the room. Timothy quickly intervened. With a worried expression on his gentle face, he said, Sister, don't move. You're still injured. I need to give you a thorough medical examination soon. I responded to Timothy with a sarcastic smile. Don't bother, a malicious person like me doesn't deserve precious medicine. Timothy's expression changed drastically, and he apologized softly. I'm sorry, it's okay if you hate me, but your health is what's most important. Can you please not stay angry for now? In my previous life, Timothy did bandage me up, and he was also a key player in vaccine and serum research. I gave him a slightly warmer look. But that didn't mean I wanted to stay with them. These injuries aren't enough to kill me. Please move. I want to go back to my supermarket. Victor, who had just come out of the bathroom, immediately blocked my way when he heard me. Sister, you can't go out. The noise earlier has attracted a horde of zombies downstairs, but I just shrugged indifferently. Outside might be dangerous, but it's still better than being here, where I'm seen as a terrorist spreading the zombie virus. Hearing this, a look of shame appeared on Victor's resolute face. He bowed deeply, apologizing sincerely. I was wrong, sister. You can punish me however you want. I won't complain. Hearing this, William suddenly took off his glasses and slapped himself hard. I was startled to see his face quickly swell and blood seep from the corner of his mouth. Yet, he looked at me pleadingly. Sister, does this help calm you down? I remained silent, and William slapped himself again. Then I'll keep going until you're no Longer angry, the sound of slaps echoed in the hospital room, but I only glanced at William before looking away. Just a few slaps and he thinks he can be forgiven. I still vividly remember the pain of being bitten by zombies in my past life. If apologies were enough, we wouldn't need police. If you want to atone, maybe in your next life. With that, I ignored Victor and tried to leave, but after only a few steps, I felt dizzy and began to falter uncontrollably. I heard 3 anxious voices calling out, "Sister." Then I knew nothing more. When I woke up again, I found all my wounds were properly bandaged. Dressed in a clean hospital gown, I lay in a VIP hospital room that could rival a 5-star hotel. 3 exhausted-looking figures stayed by my bedside, appearing as if they hadn't slept all night. Seeing me awake, they crowded around like large dogs, fussing over me with concern. Victor, with his usually icy demeanor, showed a touch of worry. "Sister, does it still hurt?" William, with a fading handprint on his scholarly face, asked cautiously. "Sister, do you still feel dizzy?" Timothy, pushing the others aside, brought a bowl of porridge to me. "Sophia, you must be hungry, right? Have some bird's nest porridge to replenish your strength." Looking at the thick, milky porridge, fragrant and undoubtedly expensive, I didn't hesitate to dig in. After taking the bowl, I started eating. Having had the porridge, I felt my strength was almost fully restored. It seems that during the time I was unconscious, Timothy must have used the best medicine on me. Now my head isn't spinning anymore, though the wounds on my body still hurt. However, it didn't hinder my movement. I rolled out of bed, put on my shoes, and prepared to leave. Timothy hurriedly stopped me. "Sophia, you need to rest now. Don't move around." I pushed him away expressionlessly. "No need. Step aside. I want to go home." Hearing this, Victor looked troubled. "Sister, if you're uncomfortable staying here, I'll take you back to our place," I scoffed. "That's Timothy's family's place, not my home. My home is that small supermarket you almost ran over." That small supermarket was my foster mother's pride and joy. I had also invested $300,000 to reinforce it and stocked it with many supplies. From the beginning, I only planned to take refuge in my small supermarket. Hearing me say this, the 3 of them, Victor included, showed faces full of guilt. Rightly so. Before our mother passed away, they swore to protect me, but not only did they fail to protect me, they almost got me killed. Now, how could they have the face to stop me? Victor sighed, as if he had made a decision. "All right, I'll take you," but the thought of Victor having me thrown into the trunk of a car, jostling my injured body, infuriated me. "No need, I can't enjoy such hospitality." Seeing that I refused Victor, William immediately pulled Victor aside. "Right, Big Brother's armored car is really uncomfortable to sit in. Sister, why don't you take the second brother's helicopter?" I completely ignored William and looked towards Timothy, who had shown me a bit of kindness before I died in my previous life. "Hey, you take me." I saw Timothy obviously startled for a moment, while Victor and William both cast envious and jealous glances at him. Timothy's face broke into a flattered smile and he said to me, all right, I'll arrange it right away." I went to the small supermarket in Timothy's Bentley. Victor's armored vehicles cleared the way for us, drawing away the zombies in the area. William's helicopter hovered above our heads. However, when I saw the small supermarket, I was taken aback. My small supermarket had completely transformed. What was once a messy store was now clean and tidy, with Victor's men moving in sturdy new shelves. They were delivering boxes of supplies, all expensive ingredients that I wouldn't even dare to touch in the supermarket. Luxuries like Australian lobsters, abalone, ham, were only the less impressive items. Most were foods I couldn't name, but which reeked of money. The appliances in the supermarket had all been upgraded to smart devices. Timothy followed me into the supermarket, explaining as we went, "Sophia, seeing that the food in your supermarket was not very healthy, I took the liberty of changing it. If you don't like it, just tell me. As the saying goes, only a fool would refuse good fortune that comes their way." I wasn't about to turn down these compensations, which I deserved. I didn't hold back at all. "Then send more. I love to eat." I walked around the supermarket and when I stepped out, I saw Victor also moving things inside. I immediately stopped him. "You're not allowed in." Victor retracted his step, standing awkwardly at the entrance. He looked at me, then at Timothy who had followed inside. "Sister, if my third brother can get in, why can't my eldest?" I said with a cold laugh. "It's my choice, and if I don't let you in, are you going to smash up my little supermarket again?" Victor knew I still held a grudge. He set down his goods on the ground, his expression tinged with melancholy. Unsurprisingly, I detected envy in his gaze towards Timothy. For these 3 brothers, born solely for their sister's sake, their sister was everything. My attitude deeply affected their emotions. I knew that to truly torment someone, physical pain was far from sufficient. I would neither forgive them nor would I ever call them brother. I intended to make them live forever in guilt towards me. spending their lives in repentance. Just then, William arrived. He smiled at me indulgently. "Little sister, your second brother noticed you were short on clothes and picked some out especially for you. Not sure if you'll like them." As he spoke, he began to bring in designer clothes from brands like Chanel and Hermes, but I didn't give him the chance. I stepped forward and kicked over the clothes rack, sending the expensive garments tumbling to the ground. I walked over the clothes, ignoring William completely, not even sparing him a glance. Pointing at the clothes on the floor, I flashed a radiant smile at Victor's soldiers. "Brothers, could you help me clean up this trash? It's quite in the way." As expected, the moment they heard me call them brothers, their faces turned green with distress. In the blink of an eye, I had been lying low in this post-apocalyptic world for a month. Usually, my days were filled with watching dramas, movies, eating, and sleeping, except for the nuisance of those three bothersome brothers visiting the supermarket. I was almost free of worries. I continued to ignore William, even though he had been kneeling outside the supermarket for a month. I hadn't looked at him even once. Anything he sent my way, I treated like trash and discarded. William had once sworn to our mother that he would ensure I lived a wealthy, carefree life like a little princess. However, whether now or in the future, I would not accept a penny from him, nor acknowledge him as my brother. As for Victor, after applying to be discharged, he stood guard at the supermarket daily, looking like a security guard. I knew he loved his military career, but his initial intention was to fulfill a promise to our mother, to protect me. He failed, and now he was here to atone. Occasionally, when I was in a good mood, I would speak to him, but he still couldn't come close to me or step inside my supermarket. However, I could tell he was already quite content. Then there was Timothy, whose healing hands were now broken. He had become a doctor to ensure I could live a pain-free, smooth life. However, when I appeared before him injured, he failed to heal me. He had promised our mother but hadn't been able to fulfill it, so he was overwhelmed with shame and had broken his most precious and important hands as a doctor. When I heard this news, I found it both amusing and frustrating. Fortunately, his hands could still be healed. It wasn't that I felt sorry for him, I just wanted him to quickly develop the serum and vaccine, so I took the initiative to contact him to discuss matters in the supermarket, and lately, he had been visiting quite frequently. Seeing him come in to talk to me, Victor and William outside the supermarket would look at him with resentful eyes. This pleased me greatly. I had quite a bit of data about the serum and vaccine from my past life. With my prompts, Timothy and his research team managed to develop the serum a month ahead of schedule. Just now, Timothy sent me a message saying the vaccine was also ready to be released. He planned to name it after me, to let the whole world know that I had also made a contribution. I couldn't help but think of Mila from my past life, who was also admired much like I am now. The day I left the hospital, Victor and the others asked me what to do with Mila. I told them to just let her go. It's not that I'm saintly, rather, I wanted Mila to experience the struggle of hiding and barely surviving in this apocalyptic world. I wondered how many days Mila, stripped of her Missy status and without her brother's protection, could survive in such an end time. That day, Timothy had sprayed her with a suppressant, so she probably hadn't turned into a zombie yet. I knew her nanny mom was recently devoured alive by zombies, but I had no idea how Mila was doing now. As I was munching on chips and planning to continue binge-watching my show, a burst of shouting and beating suddenly came from outside the mini-mart. "Mila, you wretch, I'm going to kill you." Startled, I looked through the glass door of the supermarket and saw a creature that could hardly be called human. Mila's previously smooth long hair now looked as if it had been gnawed by dogs, and her dirty face was marked with the word bitch. Her leg was broken, her body was skinny and bony, riddled with wounds large and small, oozing